I'm waiting for her to give me the go ahead. All right. All right, everyone, it's 3:27. I just ask for your attention. Okay. So thank you for staying. We'll go ahead and we'll call to order for this meeting at 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
First item, let's stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right. So let's go ahead and have roll call. So present, we have Carol, Doug, myself, Ed, and Bob. We have a quorum. Approval of the final agenda.
I have a request before you do that. Could we please move item E up under item 11E up under item 11A? Just, I have a commitment and I'd like to be able to take off after the budget discussions, please.
Okay.
11E.
Eat A.
So it would
And
go
then-
A and then E and then
then
B,
move-
C, D.
And then, no, then move C. A, do, yeah, that's what I thought too.
Public. Before or
After,
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Public,
before?
right, but people- Well, I guess the question is, that public comment, the budget will all be.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so I'll just open it. Does anybody have any comment regarding item 11C?
This is all budget and not agenda.
It's non-budget.
I don't, I do not see anything written on any of the comments where people requested to speak related to item 11C.
Okay, so then we'll go ahead. Yes. Okay, would you pass that to Tony?
Yes.
Okay,
Once you actually say, I'll hang on to it. in that.
thank you. So I will go ahead and ask for a motion for the approval of the final agenda with the two edits, which will be moving item 11E to become 11A and to move item 11C to prior to public comment.
I'll second.
second.
We have a motion and a second. On favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so we'll go ahead and we have
11C.
11C. You want to?
Yes, in your agenda packet is. The protest. You. Opposed, so- You have agreed to.
So moved. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Now can you give me the paper? You got it?
Tony, can you make sure your microphone is on? They said they can't hear you.
Take a brief moment to get the chair's signature on these, so I can then get with the individuals.
Yes, she's writing.
You sign it.
Do you need initials or just the two signatures and the 2 pages?
Oh,
Okay.
thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
All right, so we'll go ahead and we'll move to public comments.
1 second, printing an agenda. All right, I have several. The first one is Lorraine DeTurk regarding a budget meeting. I'd like to remind everyone you have 3 minutes. There's a little red stop go thing up here. It'll give you green when you start. When you see yellow, it means wrap it up. When it's red, you're done.
Thank you.
Well, so how about this? How about we keep the public's comment to public's comment?
And then have the
And-
board respond
And then
after.
we can, we write notes if they need, questions.
I think that's best.
Okay.
With the
We'll make
volume that I
one
have, I
go
think
after.
that's,
After,
yes.
okay?
Okay, I have a question on the capital reserve, study. Where there's three options on the capital reserve study, and if there were three options, why was this particular option of fully funding, the capital reserve, chosen? Number, two question is, why are we, if Stony Brook has its own contract for landscaping, why are we being charged 5% on administrative fees? And my third question has to do with the emergency, reserve emergency. I see it's not in blue, so I'm assuming it's not part of the capital reserve study. So that 50,000, I think, is can be eliminated if the Stony Brook Board decides to fund any emergency that would ordinarily cover out of the several $100,000 we already have in a projects fund, which is rarely touched. And that's the questions I have.
All right, thank you. Next,
Joel McCulca regarding the 004 budget proposal. Oh, nope, we're gonna do them all at the end.
I'll do it at the end. Because when
That
we
might
have.
be confusing.
I think so.
Do you want to just respond after each
I would
person?
respond.
Okay.
I would prefer.
Well,
that.
unless- I mean, I don't know, there's.
You want me
probably
just to
other
put all the
things
budget
responding.
things?
I answer the same question over and over again, but
Well, maybe if we answer it for the first person, we won't get it 6 times.
Okay, so I have no problem. So let's go ahead and, capital reserve study. I guess the question is if we had 3 different capital, reserve studies?
no, option.
Well, it's
Three
options
options
funding
for
options.
funding the capital project.
And why are we fully funded? I didn't think we are fully funding.
We haven't decided that yet.
We asked for a complete, full capital reserve. We haven't discussed how it's funded.
Correct.
Correct.
So
Okay.
they've given us an allocation of the costs all the way out for the 25, 40 years, whatever it was, based upon all of our various assets. How that's paid for, they gave a suggestion of how it's paid for, but that is just that.
I'm gonna,
It's for us to make a decision of whether, like Bob said earlier, we pay for it all, or we do it partially, or we could throw it out and do nothing.
that's correct. Yeah, the way I understand it is there are several funding options. One, you can do a reserve, you can do a special assessment, or that you can finance it. And there's probably some combinations, hybrid solutions in there as well.
The only one that we have, and Tony warned us about at the last meeting, is doing a bond. We have to go through bond validation, and that is long, it's sticky, and it's immensely expensive. Anyway,
Okay.
Can you please
You
come up
want
to the
to come
mic?
back
Come back up, yeah. Please.
There's also an option of doing one per year rather than biting off the whole thing at the same time, which would be, able to be funded, more.
So then the second question was landscaping. Why are they paying the 5%, landscaping fee if they are going to go with their own maintenance? I guess to me, that kind of answered itself, the if, because we don't know.
Yes, you
Um,
do. You have a contract. They didn't tell you that, sitting on the table over there. Lisa was,
Is it signed?
yes.
I just received this today, this afternoon.
Oh.
right
It
before
was
the meeting,
signed
and
today.
I have not had the opportunity to review it and or pass it off to Tony.
Okay.
So we do have, it was provided today, right before the meeting.
Oh, right before the meeting. Okay. So then I guess if that we are good, then that can be adjusted and amended.
Well,
Um,
it still takes some.
It's not
Definitely.
amended, not,
Okay.
not.
I don't know, 5%
Yeah.
the right number, whatever.
Remember,
is some
we
company.
paid the same door.
Okay, so
You want me to-
Everybody else pays per door.
You're gonna cut into your 3 minutes otherwise.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and then the reserve emergency, so I guess what they would like to do is remove that $50,000 and have that added to their HOA and pay this $50,000 via their HOA or whatever, how they feel.
I don't
fit.
think we care. I mean, to Ed's point, I don't think we really
that's,
care about that.
if we're talking about a reserve emergency for our assets.
It's for hours.
That's one deal. That's, in my opinion, not negotiable. If it's for your assets, you guys can do what you want.
I say
We don't have any say so on how you
But the
want to do yours.
50,000 is
it's
to
for
our
our
assets.
GSCDDS.
That is something that we can look at. I noticed earlier Pelican was at 40, and if that's something the board wishes to reduce it to match what Pelican has, so choose to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, that one's pretty much a mathematical calculation. It's not that difficult to do. So that can be done easily. If theirs is 40, I have a hard time figuring out whether yours is 50. I would think it'd have been substantially lower. But that, I had no problem with that.
Yeah.
Okay. So those are the three ones from Lorraine.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Joe.
Is that good, Lorraine? That was your three? Okay.
Okay, $21,000. The reason that we put in 0 in some of those boxes was because we didn't think we should be charged anything. Now, I heard some comments up here about the fact that there's cost involved with some of these people. We already pay over 10% for this contracts person in the per door fees that we pay, because we're more than 10% of the community of Gateway. I don't understand why we got to pay a second time, because we won't be not be using that gentleman. Some of the others that we're being charged for does not make sense. Operations, sewer and water and things like that. Why are we paying out of the 004 for something like that? That makes no sense. We pay for that directly into the 001. That should be removed, should never have been put in there. The whole thing should be a few $1,000s tops. That's my point. And then as far as bonuses, now I'll move on to the next subject, because that one really truly is bogus. The situation you have here for street signs and road and sidewalk, we're spending $40,000 right now to repair and replace all of our signs. That shouldn't be in that number. That should be removed from that number right there, right off the top.
Which one's that, Joe?
The road, sidewalk, and street signs reserves. We're spending $40,000 on street signs right now. They're all getting either repaired or replaced.
So you're saying you're already paying for it? So
We're
there's
paying
no-
for it right
so
now.
There won't be any need for it in the future.
Reserve,
That's okay.
correct.
So
The-
it's
the-
coming
the
out of
line-
the HOA, not.
In this particular case, we're going through the 004. It's already coming out of the budget. It's currently budgeted out of the 004. We've asked for it, and we're doing it right now.
It's the life expectancy for that item. It's not gonna, they don't need to bring $93,000. It's much less because the life has created
We're
itself.
offsetting a capital cost.
Yeah,
bottom
well,
line.
and that needs to be reduced for next year. Sod and replacement, I don't even know what that's about, because right now, well, Mainscape doesn't come in anymore. We're just paying for them. We haven't seen the dollar back of any of that because they don't do anything anymore. But we're cutting 3 feet on one side of Pebblebrook, and we're cutting about 8-10 feet on the other side of Pebblebrook. On a 60-foot right of way, we're getting about 40 feet covered. And I don't know what sod we need to replace. That would be $50,000. So I really do believe that makes no sense whatsoever. Reserve emergency. I didn't hear that discussion before. What was the emergency we're reserving for?
This is,
Do you wanna let him finish his 3 minutes? Sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry. Revenue reserve, we're still doing that. O&M reimbursement, 110. Now, the agreement says we're supposed to get fronted 2 months. We got $30,000. In fact, that's all we've gotten so far because there was a long delay before we could even access that money. But we should have gotten more than $30,000 up front.
Okay.
Okay,
All right. So let's,
security contract, okay. It should have been, the number that we actually projected was real, it's contractual,
195, not
Yeah.
5%. Okay.
okay?
All right. So regarding the salaries, that was that was just the comment.
We don't know what we're paying for there because we already paid for these. For the most part, we
Are we
paid for
entering
that service.
any discussion?
let's get this straightened out, because this is a pet peeve of mine. If you all owned your roads, I'm talking Stony Brook right now. If you all owned your roads, you'd be doing the same thing I'm doing in my community. You would be paying additional fees for the administration of the work to maintain those roads. You don't own them, so they are not a part of the 001 account. The 001 account is common to all of the people in Gateway, everybody. My roads aren't common, and I'm paying for them. Your roads are, and you want us to pay for them. That dog just don't hunt. You need to pay
11C.
all the costs associated with maintaining assets. This was a decision that was made in air. Bob used another word 10, 15 years ago. It was a major screw up of this community of taking over those roads in 2008 without a deadline, a drop dead date. This has gone way too long. The roads need to be turned back over to Stony Brook, period. We'll talk about that later, how we're going to see if we can make that happen. But the issue is, if we would take and have a zero number for that balance, that means nobody here, no staff, nobody does anything relative to the administration of that contract for our assets benefiting you. That ain't gonna happen. Somebody's got to be in charge of it. Somebody's got to oversee it. Somebody's got to review contracts. All of that is cost that's not dedicated to anybody else in Gateway, except for the 777 homes in Stony Brook. It's that simple. Nobody else should be paying for that. Stony Brook's not paying for my roads. Why would you expect me to pay for yours?
Yeah.
They are not 001 items. They're all because a mistake was made 15 years ago that said we would bail Stony Brook out of the recession. And it's been a disaster ever since. We need to get these assets back to you. Then you can do whatever you want. And Joe, that mowing, that's one where I'm totally in agreement with you. That is a mess, an absolute chaotic mess. The road right away is this and the sidewalk goes like this and we mow on one side and then we mow on it. It's stupid, absolutely stupid. It needs to be under you all and in this deal, in this discussion, so we never do it again. To make that happen, we got to have 80% of you sign a paper. We're going to be asking for that. We've got to get these roads turned over to the county so that they can turn them over to you, and we follow the law in doing so. So I hope that explains to everybody that issue of why those salaries and wages that we had a long discussion at the last meeting. We tried to come up with a reasonable percentage.
And they're very modest.
And the only other way I know of doing it, the only other way would be to take and just simply establish an hourly rate for each of our employees. And for the next year, every time they do like a timesheet or a time clock, every time they work on a Stony Brook project, we bill you. We bill you. What's the difference? What's the difference? The difference is that we're estimating it based upon best guesstimates of what the cost is going to be on an allocation. I'd love to be able to get rid of that. And the way to do that is we turn the roads over to you guys.
All right, and the second item that he had was the sod replacement reserve. And is that regarding the sugarcane mosaic virus? Okay. For what we have there, I think that's a little high.
So what you're saying, some of these costs could be lower.
I'm just averaging.
So whether we get affected or not.
Well, it depends how, so that's the thing, but it's gonna be one vendor, so it's easier to manage, I'll say that way, but I can tell you, there are two communities right now, they are affected by it, and it's minor, but it's around 30,000 for one and double the 50,000.
The larger question is this: if there's no money there, if it happens, then what do you do?
Well, so that's,
That's exactly right. Then. If you
That's-
got it there and you don't spend it, it doesn't cost.
I mean,
anybody.
because there's already plenty of complaints in a lot of communities about landscaping and sod dying. You know, I don't think people are gonna want to sit for 2 months while a funding decision comes up. So that's the biggest thing, is what is Stony Brook comfortable with putting there?
It's a known hazard that we're gonna face, but we don't really know what the impact.
It's an unknown.
right, so then that's that one, and then the last one was the reserve, the new. They're also $50,000. And that's the same, what we use for 001, but different amount, and if we want to lower that to match what Pelican has, 40,000.
To
I
me,
think
that,
it's even lower.
to me,
I
that
think
is pure.
Pelicans is 40.
Yeah, so in there, then Stony Brook is 50.
Yeah.
Should be maybe like 25
Or less.
or 20.
To me, that is purely a mathematical calculation that can be done so easy. And if Pelican is 40, I can't picture that Stony Brook would be anything over
So
20.
if we go based on what Joe said, the 93.5 for the sidewalk street repairs, if that's a non-issue, we could strike that. The
Wait, hold on.
93,
Is that all or partial? Cause I think, is it all, Joe?
Well, 40,000 for the,
40 of that.
but not, have other things included in that number.
Joe, can you come up to the microphone, please, so people online
That
can
we
hear?
would have to branch out and like literally break what the 93,500 is.
We can work, if the direction is to remove the signage from it, we can do that and then just come back with the roads and sidewalks, curbs and gutters.
Okay.
That's what I would
And
do.
then I would take the reserves down to, I don't know, whatever you think's, you know, is that 15K? Is it 20K?
3 months?
Yeah.
To me, on a basis of a pro rata, that makes sense.
So can you just, Chelsea, refine that
It's not
number?
a scientific
Yeah.
number.
Come where,
Swag. Swag.
So 15?
Oh, it's, wasn't a
Let's do 15.
calculation.
No.
All right.
let's do 15. And that 93 will drop, let's say, right now, 50 might be the number, you know.
Well, we'll just.
The idea is it's 90 days, 3 months of operating costs.
She said 40 something.
No, 40 was for just, 40
Just
was just signs?
Yeah.
Just signs, okay.
So,
But you still got the roads and
So
sidewalks. in there.
53,500, okay.
so, you know,
You know, just have staff do
50.
that.
and then the question I think we already answered around the reserve, drop that to 20, that's the reserved emergency. And then what stays is the gatehouse and the monument reserves. I mean, that's,
That stays, yeah. So the 3 items that would be flexible will be the under reserves, the road sidewalk, which we dropped it, 53,500 instead of 93. Then the sod replacement, now we want to keep it at 50,000 or want to lower that?
Yes,
So it is, it really depends on how soon they can, it's just about spreading and it really can't stop it once you have it and it's not,
well, no, we have no idea on that.
none.
So this is a best guess.
So we want to keep it at 50,000?
Yeah, let's keep it there.
Okay, and then we'll lower the emergency reserve, the
20.
50,000 to 20. Okay,
And then the revenue reserve, do you want me to calculate the same as the rest where it would be a 3 months worth of whatever the operating expenses are? So that's
Yeah.
gonna go up a little bit then,
We,
but.
again, it's a number we can pick, because we're going for the high mark right now. We can always come back, like what Bob said, is if we make a decision that we're going to cut either the reserves or the emergency reserve, that can be made down the road.
And I'd be fine too with, even with the sod replacement. If, to your point, if the board says we don't want that money reserved, we will fund it elsewhere. As long as they vote and approve it, we'll pull all of it out.
That could be included as part of the landscape maintenance easement agreement that we're working on drafting. So we
Yeah.
can include that if that's what you'd like.
okay, next,
Did we,
oh, that's for Joe, those 3, so now we have
Okay,
enough
yeah.
person.
Next up is Margaret Feinberg. She has 2 things on hers. One is the Stony Brook budget and the other one is medians on Gateway Boulevard.
Got 3 minutes. I'd like to know when the medians are gonna start being worked on
Okay,
Gateway Boulevard. Get that one out of the way. As far as I guess I'm gonna start with this one. Who, when, and where can Stony Brook meet to address the issues that we have with the budget? Because I don't think they're gonna be resolved today, and I don't think they're gonna be resolved before the 15th, when this high water mark is a drop dead. I'd like to set up some kind of a meeting, and I don't care who it's with, as long as it's somebody that can make some decisions. We've got assistant district manager, we're paying 1%. I actually had to get these percentages off of more than one sheet, which I have to say was very frustrating. We're paying 1% of the assistant district manager's salary. I'd like to know why that was decided. The 004 fund, some of these things we pay the full boat into the general funds. So we're charging us 10% for the contracts manager's salary. What contract is he managing for us? What exactly is he doing? Because we negotiated the security contract. We're taking over the landscaping contract. What else is there? He's got nothing to do for the 004 fund. There's absolutely zero. The administrative assistant is 10%. And since we've done away with the 004 committee, I don't know how much work is
No.
being done by the
Administrative
administrative assistant.
Zero.
It's 0.
Not on the one I'm looking at.
No,
No,
0.
0.
office administrator is 1%.
Well,
It's up on the screen right now.
I must be looking at an old one then.
It was changed at their last.
Yeah, at the last meeting, they were changed
and
around.
Didn't
several
get it
times.
updated.
Okay, I don't have into her time, sorry.
And all of the things under Public Works, why is Stony Brook paying additional salaries to Public Works when anything that goes on in Stony Brook is strictly 001? There's no Public Works done in Stony Brook that comes out of the 004 funds. We shouldn't be paying any additional salaries at all, period. And when you said we just charge the 004 fund for projects when they are related to Stony Brook, remember, Stony Brook has a lot of things going on in it that are not related to the 004 fund. There's absolutely things that happen in there that don't have anything to do with that. And I'm gonna run out of time because we already said that the landscape contract would come out of this budget. We've agreed on the security. I think we just need to make sure that all these numbers that we agree on them, because we went from a 517 budget last year to a 304
Flavia.
budget that the 004 people turned in to a $763,000 budget that it went up, down, up.
Okay. Sorry, Margaret, I'll keep it. Do you want to go ahead and
Works, I
start
don't think
addressing
they'll
some
let
of
me do
her? So the first item regarding the median, I just follow up with Andrew before this meeting because the estimated starting date, we're waiting on the county to give us the permit for the MOT and it was 6/1. We just received the email today that they will give us an answer by 6/14, so 2 more weeks. But I know that both vendors, the concrete vendor and the landscape vendor are both ready to go as soon as we get that permit from the county.
So we're probably looking at July.
No.
No. I would say that,
With the
we
next
just,
2 days.
we got
like-
confirmation from the county staff that they try to get to the top of their list and that I'd easily say within the next 2 to 3 weeks. The concrete has to
So
be.
6/14 will have
That is their deadline, but they're gonna try to prioritize it.
so work should begin in 2 or 3 weeks.
Yes, let's say.
And then I'm pretty sure residents of Stony Brook, they can go onto the county's website and they can look up the permit. And they can see it if the permit has been issued or not. It's on the website too. We get notification as a district, but if they are curious to see it, it's available there too. So regarding the percentages, so the assistant district, manager, so the question is, why are we paying them a 1% in addition to what we already paid for the 001? So Laura, so this is the one that
I had it at 0.
you had at a 0.
And you
and-
had me change it to 1. Same with Julie.
I have no problem taking it back to 0, but you don't do any work. None.
That means they don't get reimbursed for anything then.
Yeah, I mean, there is
There's my point.
and that was the minimum that
People
we could.
understand there's work to be done. It may be minimal, but there's work to be done. And the public works person, the roads are public works. That's why we have a public works percentage. Who else is gonna be under? Not gonna be under utilities.
Okay. And would the landscaping lead will go away if they take over the contract at 5%?
Correct.
Okay,
Again, we're setting the high water mark. We
okay,
can always take away.
but at least so they know, like that
Right.
will,
Yes, that will go
that will
away.
remove, that will be
Yes.
a 5% removed from
And I mean, if the roads go back.
What
to
we
Public
determined
Works,
last
we'll
time
review.
was that there needs to be allocation in these areas. I think where the conversation is today, where Stony Brook is providing input is the percentages accurate? With And the ones that are in question are the project manager, public works at both at 5% and the contract manager at 10. So how much the contract manager is 10% of their salary? Like that's, if you do the math, let's back into the hours.
Any of the contracts that come in for the district, on the district side that is beyond the threshold laid out in the O and M agreement, Randy would touch. He would confirm, insurance requirements, making sure the contract's executed by all parties, looking at Sunbiz. So I think that's a fair number.
But if they take over the landscaping, so they won't be.
It could
So
be
it could,
reduced.
so that could be
Same
reduced
thing with the
pending.
security contract, same thing with that. It could be reduced, yes.
Okay, so then the 10% it can be reduced.
So that's 4 hours a week. Randy will be dedicated to Stony Brook. Every week, 4 hours. That does seem like a lot.
And I would, okay, so then we want to do 2, and then if they take the contract, we can review and furthermore reduce it, but I'm comfortable keeping it 5% now?
Wait, you're talking contract manager?
Yes. We'll keep it at 5% now, and then if they
I
reduce it,
still think that's,
that's
of
high.
course, I think that's a lot. I mean, even at 5%, that's 2 hours a week.
That's not very much time. I mean,
2 hours a week?
yeah.
I mean, they're only dealing with how many contracts?
Well, I
per
have no idea.
Per annual, and then how many hours dedicated per contract? That's the way you have to look at it.
You can put it down to 1%.
I mean, I'm not saying I know exactly what that number is, but there is a way to back into it mathematically where it makes sense. And I understand we have to allocate staff, but I think there's a logical way
Well,
to back
the
into it.
the same could be said, like Mr. Tinkle. If you want it at 0, then he won't commit any time to Stony Brook.
Yeah, well, it can't be 0. I mean, we know that's not realistic.
How about we keep it to the 5, which is to be 2 hours a week, and by the 15th, we'll get more information and maybe some historical, what he's been spending. And given that we'll be looking at the contract that you have now with landscaping and and security.
Yeah.
Then it'll be, by the 15th, will be even lower.
And then anytime, if we set aside an hourly threshold, if we can say, all right, if it's 2 hours a week, that's gonna be 8 hours a month. That's whatever the allocation is annually. If they go above and beyond that, then we build in the difference, or, there's a way that we can.
No, that's not.
You would, yeah,
I'm
we'll learn-
okay with the
we'll learn for
5%. We'll see where we go.
that's what I was
Okay.
thinking, and we'll do 2024, 2025, we'll figure it out. Okay. So
And then
those are.
Ed, you want to talk about the public works?
Well, just saying that the public works, the road and the assets we have up there, they fall under public works. So I
Yeah.
don't know who else you would put them under. We wouldn't put them under Parks and Rec. And they certainly aren't under enterprise. They're public works.
So public works.
So there is a percentage of effort that's required by the public works director relative to those assets we have up there that are public works related. I don't know how you say it.
What about the project manager?
That's-
That one's a little low.
That there, we don't even have the position filled.
And there's,
So they pay by salaries, right?
They pay by the actual expenditures.
There's nobody there, they don't pay.
Next year we'll roll
Then
over.
then it doesn't hit, well, let's be clear, because what you set in here is what is collected, but what actually hits the expense account to that fund, if the position is vacant, then we're not gonna hit that line item. The money's gonna sit in that fund.
That's, I was gonna say that when Joe was up there earlier. That's the critical thing. All of this is budgetary to create the assessment, which if not spent at the end of the year, does not come back into the 001 account or any other accounts. It stays in 004. So it's either built up as a reserve to offset or supplement cost for the next year, which is about the only way we do it because we don't send checks back out. So we keep it and it's a positive on your side. So if the project manager is not employed, that 5% of $99,000, $5,000 sets in the account as $5,000 of surplus.
and that's what we're talking about, $5,000.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we got Joe's, and who's next?
I have Harvey Charter, he's got dog park issue.
Oh, you want a meeting? Oh, sorry. You want to set up a meeting to talk about the budget?
So that's,
So
that's
that,
you and Chelsea.
yeah, so I'll make myself available.
You and Chelsea did.
Just don't put Margaret, or just don't put Flavia in a position of backed into a corner because she has to get 4 of the votes.
So Flavia, you and I. coordinate with Margaret.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
the
and
board's
me,
vote.
that's my, the budget is me, so
Oh, you-
I would like to be involved.
Okay, sorry, we're kicking you off.
Yeah.
All right, so Laura and I, and then,
You'll pull Chelsea into
we'll
that
try-
too
yeah,
for this.
okay.
No problem with that.
Next, dog park. Sorry. Hi.
Well, don't be sorry. My name is Harvey Trotter. I live in Silver Lakes. I've been here for over 25 years. And everyone, this is going to be a quick one. It'll be a nice break from the budgets, I think. This is addressing to the board. We have an issue. We started to address it a couple of meetings ago. We had one of the fellers at the dog park that was banned for 3 months, and you've got him down to coming back in July. Jays. We have a group, what you're not aware of, there's a group of primarily veterans, all in their 70s, most in their upper 70s, all with post-traumatic stress and other things. We meet every morning and we support each other. What you've done is you can't come for 3 months. First of all, the man never did any damage. The man never owned a pair of bolt cutters. Someone, I said he had bolt cutters. He doesn't even own it. He can barely walk. You saw him here. I think that I would like to see the board do the right thing and just let him back in. I've taken his dog into the park at days. I told you I was going to do it. I did it, but we can make this right. Just let him back in because he belongs there. It helps him and it helps the other people that are in the group. And
What's his name again? I'm sorry.
his name is Fred Meyer. Fred doesn't know I'm here, by the way. But
Yeah.
it's just something that needs to be resolved. You put what you thought it was. I agree with you 100%. That's what it was. There was no damage done by him. I just wanted to get it resolved and get it done quickly because he doesn't deserve. You're hurting a group of people. You're not just hurting him, and he shouldn't be hurt anyways.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Harvey,
Yes.
I just have to say
Sure.
one thing. When the board took that action, I'll talk about from when I took,
Yes,
I read the report from staff,
yes,
not from the manager, but the people that were actually on the premises when it occurred
right,
and the things that passed back and forth.
right.
I guess I would take exception to the fact that you think we did something to him. This was something he initiated. He did, he
You
challenged,
didn't do anything.
but no, that's not what, it's not what the
That's what
report
it said.
said.
I mean, yeah, okay.
So
okay,
therefore, based with the knowledge we had,
right.
I understand and I will do anything to support our veterans. But in this
Okay.
particular case, I don't think that the penalty was inappropriate. I completely.
I think the input of information was in it was not correct, not accurate. As I said, trust me, this guy is almost 80 years old, okay?
Well, I'm
He did-
82 and I can be pretty damn ornery when I want to. be, you know.
I didn't say they're not honoring, they're honoring as hell.
I'll-
I mean,
I'll
they'll-
test that.
They'll tell you what's on their mind, but really, it's something I think that can be resolved very,
Okay.
very quickly.
Okay.
All right, so we can take that.
So
for-
he's got 1 month left, but I can tell you that as of last week, I personally saw him in the park.
I had him
So-
there,
And so,
yeah.
and so we notified him via email that he was not to be in the park per the revocation of his permit
Right.
until July. So just so you're aware of the situation.
And
Okay,
he hasn't been there since he got that notification, but I was the one
okay,
that brought
so,
him in.
well, I'm just gonna, I know
Yeah.
it was gonna be a quick one, so we'll keep to that, just 3 minutes. So thank you. I appreciate you coming on his behalf.
Okay,
All right, so who do we?
you're gonna resolve, when will this be discussed, resolved, whatever?
Probably supervisor comments or
Yeah.
later on during the meeting.
Later, yeah, that's what I'll do.
We'll
Okay.
come back to it.
Oh, so I should stay, okay. All right, thank you.
I have 2 comments that don't say what they want and 1 non-agenda. So next would be David Nickerson. No, nothing listed as to why he wants to speak.
I'd like to yield my 3 minutes to Margaret.
Do we,
That's fine, whatever. That's fine. People need to talk. That's why we're here. Give them opportunity to talk.
fine with that?
If someone wants to.
And you want my questions. As far as the shared costs on the employees, one of them is stormwater specialist. Stormwater is all 001. There is no stormwater 004. So
We don't have that.
We don't have that.
It's 0.
It's 0.
well, what you have on your website is not up to date then.
I'll give her mine. Yeah,
No,
So,
it's right here.
Go back to, thank you. Okay, I'll take that one with me. Okay. That's better. All right. Again,
Now, that's fast response, Margaret.
yeah, that is. I got that approved. I just have real concerns with this reserve. And I understand why the concern is about the roads, but the intention of Stony Brook was always to go out for a 20-year bond issue when the roads needed to be repaved. And in 2031 is so arbitrary. That's when the reserve, whoever did the reserve study came up with the idea that our roads are going to need to be completely repaved in 2031. I have a hard time believing that. And there's other things that can be done prior to that that will increase the length of the time that would be required for a full repavement. And $2,500 that we would have to pay up in 2031, that was a scare tactic, Ed. You were trying to scare the residents of Stony Brook into believing that there was going to be a
Don't go down
balloon
that road.
payment in 2031.
Don't go down that road.
Because
So she's done with it.
because that is that wouldn't happen even in worst case scenario. That money can be borrowed, it can be paid off over time. I don't think they're going to need to be repaid in 2031. We've already talking about doing things that will increase the length of time that will for restoration of those roads. That'll be much less expensive and much more cost effective. So I just think that the reserve funding is just all wrong. And I've got questions on other things like what they're actually for. The $110,000 is the O&M reimbursement. I think that needs to be looked at in detail because I think some of the things that are included in that 110 go away because we've taken over the landscaping contract. The HOA has taken over the landscaping contract. So I suspect that $110 is going to be a lot less, but there's no detail included with it. So I don't know what all that is. And I appreciate the ability to sit down and discuss some more of this stuff in detail so that we can get our budget to where we want it.
All right,
Thank you.
no problem. So, so I will start with the one that I wrote. So that regarding the roads. So the reserve study, it's, it's assessed by, when they're assessing the life of the road, they know when it was placed, and then they will go through the on-site and look at it and they will say, this has 8 more years, this has 5 more years, this has more 15 years. It's not something that takes input from staff or the board. They are the professionals, so they're the one that come up with that number. So to say that a professional is just coming up with a number is not accurate, I would have take that if another professional would have come and tell us that. But I think we're not really relaying the full truth to the residents, and that concerns me. And I saw that at that meeting. Regarding to the comment towards Ed, I'm going to answer before you. Okay, Ed. So in the reserve study, it's $1.8 million to redo the whole road. So I just did a calculation. I was asking Doug. So I think you have 775 residents. 778. So 1.8 million. It would have come up to a special assessment of 2,344. So I guess Ed just rounded up. So if that is the route, if it's not a bond, if it's not a borrowing, if it is a one-time special assessment, that is the number. That is the number. So it is not a scare tactic. That is the number. That doesn't mean that's going to be how it's going to get done. It's one of them, and that's the cost. And that's saying that the cost is not going to exceed 1.8, which, we had some feedback that it could be more. But again, the professionals say 1.8, that's lower. Let's keep that one, right? So it works both ways. the other question regarding more
Before
of,
we leave that one, if I'd like to just make one comment, because Pelican's going through a similar thing. And, we paid Tetra Tech to come out and do a survey of our roads. And then based on that survey, we forecast which communities in a priority order will need to be repaved and when. So that has gotten Pelican to the point where they're allocating 225,000 a year for the next couple of years, next 5 years. And that's a short-term thing. But I agree with you that you're not going to repay everything in one time. But that doesn't mean that you can't prepare and look at what needs to be done on a much shorter time horizon in the next 5 years or so that you could do something.
okay, so Lorraine, just,
It would be great for Stony Brook to hear, if you could do a calculation on a per mile of road. So we'd have some idea of what it would cost us.
Well, again, we had an engineering firm do it, so it wasn't opinion. And clearly, turnaround areas and cul-de-sacs take much more abuse than straightaways. But at least
But you
rather
had-
than
you
us
had-
guessing,
You had to package and
we had a professional come out and do an assessment on every road. Or the sampling, they did the oldest roads
But
first.
you have a mileage figure on how many.
so how,
I don't, but I'm
so
sure
how about
somebody
this?
does.
So we don't, because I don't,
Yeah.
I want to keep the same rule that I had.
Right.
So if you email Bob directly, maybe you can set up some
I can
time
get you
and
into
he
that-
can
that
assist you
study.
with that.
That'd
Just
be
do a,
great.
Be
do a
happy.
records request. We
Yeah.
have the information.
Yeah.
To me, this is a philosophical component, in my opinion. As a district, we are making a philosophical decision to do what we think is physically responsible and create reserves.
Yes,
That our board will unanimously has agreed, that's our approach.
Yeah.
If Stony Brook doesn't want to do that, if you want to wait and in 10 years, however many years, if you want to, whatever, and if you want to do a different funding solution, that's fine. We all, I think, would agree that if you don't want to put money in reserves and you want to wait 10 years and try to go through financing and do a bond validation of whatever that cost is and address it at that point, we're fine. But our recommendation is to follow our district philosophy. If you don't want to do that, we would require the board to have a vote and to approve going a different direction than what the district board is recommending.
that's acceptable.
We have no problem with that. I
I'll-
think every person would say, you want to keep your assessments low, and you will tell your residents that you are not putting the recommended amount in reserves, and you will address that in 10 years or whenever, that's fine. I don't think we have a problem with that.
I will say this, I'll take a step further to that, just because of I got emails from both ends, supporting and not supporting.
Yeah.
So
think-
to me, while I give the respect to the board and they're the one to make the decision, but I would take a step further and required a letter from the board saying that that's what they want. But that the board would send that information prior to making the decision to their residents. That it's, because a lot of the times, a lot of the emails was, I didn't know, nobody told me. So it is getting filtered and is getting one-sided filtered. So I would say, you have it from the board, but prior to that, having them have the meeting and email blast that information. We as a board at Stony Brook are gonna make this decision because they may have a turnaround and all the residents there say, no, we don't want that. So I think that board makes a decision on what the residents' needs are. But I think the residents are the one that have the biggest say on this. And I really wish that the Stony Brook board will follow up with their residents when they make that decision and come to us. Again, I'm in the same way. If that's what they want, fine. But be clear and transparent with your residents, because I may not be here, none of us may be here, but I also don't want the board 8 years down the road to be having to deal with this, then we didn't know. So that's what I have.
Okay.
No other questions. I think I answered all, and then we're gonna meet.
When's the next Stony Brook HOA?
2 weeks from now.
Yeah, so if you guys can get that approved and get that letter over to us, we can make the adjustment.
The 19th. Yeah, June 19th.
And it's probably a good idea to inform them of the situation of the roads and what that they are public and include the gatehouse and all that stuff, so all the information gets out at one time. Would probably be a good idea.
Just so you know, Randy and I had a little bit of staff helping me. We did put in a frequently asked questions regarding a lot of the comments and feedback that I received at that meeting.
Stony Brook.
I was able to answer most of them. There was one, it was regarding to like, if they do take over, and I talked to you guys about it at the meeting, what would happen to the 004 money? Would we give them back? And I think all of us said, yes, it's their money if we're allowed to do it. And I know Tony's going to follow up with Ross to see if it's a one lump sum for each homeowner, or is it a credit to the 001 account? So-
And I have an approach on the
Okay, so we can talk about it, because I want to bring that up, because I do have a 2-page frequently asked question that from all the questions that I was asked, just a summary that I gave, my word to those residents that I'm gonna get that in writing to their board, and it is their board's responsibility to pass that information down to them. I'll even take a step further and ask that we post that on our website.
Well,
I don't,
At least get it to Chelsea and have Chelsea deliver it to us so we can
okay,
see what the responses are.
We're reviewing it right now.
Any refund or reduction assessments, but I don't want you to pay for them initially.
Yeah.
yes.
To pay,
It's Stony Brook money. It's not
and
ours.
they would pay for everything that thereafter once that
Yeah.
property.
And they said that if there wasn't an option, they would have just spent all the money prior to the turnover, which is fine.
What can be afterwards?
We'll get that to the board next.
All right, so
I have two more.
go ahead.
Callahan, Kimberly, no topic listed.
I'm from Stony Brook also. Have you guys done a cost analysis on the $5 million office building for at least the next 5 years? 1 year, 3 year, 5 years? If you haven't, why not? If you have, I think, as you spoke transparency, I think everybody in the Gateway area should know what we're paying for and what we're looking at cost besides the 5 million. As far as landscaping, are the residents in Stony Brook who have already paid for landscaping going to receive back a refund on the $60,000 that we've already paid in and have not received the services on? Next question, the walls at the end of Gateway, why are we replacing them? They're not broken, why fix them? Just another cost added to the residents. Have you all taken into consideration with your budget that we just went through a pandemic? We just had a major hurricane. We're looking at a possible recession and continued rise in inflation. Freeze the current budget. Do what is absolutely necessary. You guys' responsibility is to give us the essentials that we must have, not all the bougie, pretty, fancy stuff. This is not a time to be gouging people's pockets. That's all I have to say.
All right, so we'll go ahead and, Al, do you want to take the 5-year analysis on the operation? I assume she was speaking regarding the operations cost that would take to run the $5 million building.
Well, and
The
let's.
building's not $5
The
million.
building's not $5 million. It's budgeted 3.8. It's the
3.6.
3.6, sorry, 3.6. And it's financed over 20 years, so it'll cost residents, even if you add O&M costs on top of it, you're looking at about $15 annually per resident.
Okay,
That's about right.
you see something I haven't seen. First of all, we haven't bid the project, so we don't know what the hell the cost is. That's item one. We're budgeted at what, 3.6 million?
3.6.
3.6. Becomes over 3.6, then we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I want to see two things. I want to see what the principal and interest payments are on that, which is standard mortgage that we would be paying. That's going to be in addition to what we're currently paying, less what we're paying out to the place where we're housing you all right now, temporary. So that's going to be a math calculation. The bigger the one is what is going to be the increased power costs, electrical costs, lighting costs, admin costs, all the extras. I want to see, so I see a net, what is the total cost of the project, which is not just capital, but it's operating. I haven't seen that yet.
Okay. So then the second question is regarding the $60,000, guys,
Yeah, I didn't get that one at all.
I-
The 60,000.
I can answer that.
So I'll have
Seven.
Laura-
I can-
Hey,
I-
I'm
instead
gonna
of
ask
being
you
your-
to just
yeah.
let them answer the questions, and if you have follow-up questions, somebody's willing to will to you, then we'll do that. Go ahead,
So
Laura.
I think we discussed this already and Doug actually answered the question. What'll happen is because those dollars were paid specifically into the 004 Stony Brook Fund, whatever dollars are not used up by the end of the fiscal year will go into the Stony Brook reserves. So you keep those dollars. They stay with Stony Brook.
So regarding the walls, I did get an email about this in which I did talk to staff about it, and I talked to Laura and Chelsea, and we were not even sure what this is. The walls of 82 being replaced and the monuments being taken down. I have no idea what this is. I did get 2
I
emails
think
about
this
it.
is, this has somehow gotten some legs, but this, from the last meeting we were doing budgeting, we set aside dollars for monument improvements and replacement. One is the park, which that's a net new. And then we were looking at,
The other five.
the other 5 entrances doing improvements to those monuments.
Well, some of them don't even have any.
Yeah, some don't have any.
But we had the money set aside, $300,000 for that. It's in the bond, so
we
it's not, so I'm not
It
sure
will be
about,
included in the assessment. What's up for the principal and interest on the bond dollars?
Correct.
Yes.
And this is part of a bigger picture of.
Yeah.
Redoing these.
So
so
that,
I think there was confusion
that-
within the residents. That's why they were.
that monument improvement project will not directly hit the assessment,
Won't be O and M assessment.
not
be a
O and
debt
M
service
assessment.
assessment.
It'll,
Right.
like, through the CIP. Yeah.
Yeah, be part of the debt service assessment.
All right, and then I guess the final comment was regarding freezing everything and you know, deferring for future. There's always gonna be something in the future. That's my feedback. It's always gonna be something. We're in Florida. And I think that's why we're here, because we continue to defer. And that's why the numbers are scary. They're big. So
That's
to
how-
me,
That's how we got
it's
to where
that,
we're at.
so I don't think you guys deserve of us to defer. You wouldn't do that on your HOA, you wouldn't do that in your household. It wouldn't be fair to, you know, the 7,000 do it. So that is if you guys wanna add to it, it's fine. All
Totally agree.
right. You wanna add anything, Bob? No?
No, I think she wants to speak some more, so
Okay.
come on up, please.
I get that. We have to defer because we don't have the money. But what you don't realize is we need to defer now. People are going bankrupt. You're putting people out of homes with the cost of raising not only our HOA, the CDD. It's ridiculous.
But we haven't,
You
you don't even
guys
know what
need
the
to
amount
take-
is. You have no, we haven't.
We
haven't
don't
set
know the amount, but we're asking you guys to take into consideration and
Yeah.
give us
Completely understand. that.
the essentials.
Yeah.
The walls, if they're not broke, don't fix them.
What walls are you?
Well,
Them,
that's why we're confused, because I think that we.
We're not
ha-
tearing down
you
these
just
walls.
talked
Are you-
about the walls, Doug.
Talking about
She's
monument,
talking about the monument.
monuments.
Yeah.
Okay, monument.
If they're not broke, why fix them?
There
Well,
aren't
they
any
are.
there. There aren't any there.
Okay, you said 5, but
There's 6 entrances into this community, and 3 of them, I believe, have monuments, 3 do not. And what we're trying to do is to upgrade the community and the look of the community, and that's why that 300,000 is budgeted into the bond funds.
is it necessary?
We think it is.
You guys think it is? Ask the
All right,
That's what
So
that's
we'll-
what elections are for, please, ma'am.
what is the next one?
Rod Senior, non-agenda item.
Yeah.
Afternoon, Board.
Bob.
Fellow residents, Gateway Greens, Rod Senior. I addressed the board a few weeks ago about the 2 roundabouts. I just want to recap. And I understand Chelsea might be talking about this in your comments later. These 2 roundabouts, we're on the hook for doing all the underground utility, removing and removing for these roundabouts, because that is called for in our hold harmless agreement that we signed in February 17, when we turned the roads over. The Commerce roundabout is estimated to have cost us 0.8 million. And the one that's now under construction, Griffiths, is 1.2 million, which amounts to 2 million. I think we've a good chance of getting reimbursed by Lee County. Clause 16 of the hold harmless agreement says that we will hold the county harmless from all landscaping, accidental, accidents as well as roots coming out the sidewalks. It also says that we'll pay for all the utilities to be moved and removed. We shouldn't, in my opinion, be so exposed. In February, in May on the 21st of May 2020, this board, not this board, but the board, sent a letter to Lee County. It was a 5-0 vote, placing on record that $1.5 million is grossly unfair and unacceptable. That's now grown to 2 million. I've done some research on this. I'm not a lawyer, but statute 725.06 applies where there is no reasonable monetary limit on an indemnity like this, then it can be deemed void and unenforceable. I've spoken to Chefi Pasadomo, who is one of the top litigation firms in Florida, Ludi Agostino, who Ed and I know very well from previous work he's done for us with Comcast. He's willing to take a run at this for $5,000. He's done a conflicts check, no problems with that. I know that Chelsea has spoken to Ludi Agostino. He's willing to have a look at previous case laws on this one statute, and for that cost and a $2 million possible benefit back into our enterprise fund capital reserves, it should be a no-brainer. And I'm hoping the board will take a run at this and let Lee Agostino, as an independent third party, give us the benefit of his thoughts. I think it's worth it. I don't think we should be so exposed now or in the future. For whatever Lee County decides it wants to do with these roads, we shouldn't be holding the bag. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Rod. All right, so Chelsea, you want to go ahead and
Touch on that now.
yeah, well,
So I did have a call with Louis, and his assistant, and try to get up to speed with what had been discussed previously. I did ask yesterday for, it's on. I did ask yesterday for a clear scope, and what our expectation is to come out of this. And so I think I just got the email in this meeting. I saw the email come through. I haven't had a chance to review it. But there is a requirement of a $5,000 retainer that they get paid up front. As part of those discussions, being Tony was very involved in writing these, he did request to contact Tony to get some background information, which I think would be prudent. But I've got to review the scope because I want to be clear on what our expectations are of the results of their findings.
And can you do me a favor? And as you're pinning down that scope, probably a good idea just to maybe touch base with Rod, just to make sure, because the work that he's done on this, I want to make sure that it's in line with the conversations that we're having too. So it might just be good just to give Rod just a call and say, hey, this is what we think scope is. Are you in alignment? Or maybe there's some other discussions, but that's good. Glad we're.
I just, before I go, I noticed a lot of the Stony Brook people are leaving. You're welcome to leave. But I will be talking about all those questions and items that we talked over at the meeting, and I'll probably have a handout. So I'll pass it out to Joe, just if they want to stay, but go ahead.
I can reach out to Rod if,
Okay, that'd be great. You good with that, Rod?
Thank you.
All right, so,
I do want to just make one, or if we're wrapping up, final comment, we did get an email, which I believe Georgia printed out for you all with regards to parent concerns and the proposed increased rates and fees for the soccer complex. And so I don't know if you'd like to read it into it.
you can go ahead and read it.
Okay. This was from a Kevin Reynolds of Jewelstone Lane. And he had reached out to Flavia with regards to why I'll just read it verbatim for you all. My question is, if the calculations are based on expenditure and the fields look like they do, doesn't it seem that you are paying too much already for a bad landscaper? I still do not understand charging more to tenants who have had to endure a bad product for the last several years. I've lived in Gateway for over 20 years. I myself played on those fields and my 2 kids are now playing. I've never seen the fields in the condition that they are in, even the front fields that are elevated, flood, and stay wet without draining. And now to increase the price for a poor product, please feel free to share my email chain to the meeting. My fear is that people like myself and my kids will not be able to afford to participate due to the rising cost, and then you will lose tenants. And he provided his personal email and contact information if any of you would like to reach out to him individually.
Thank you.
All right, so nothing else online?
No, there's nothing in the chat.
Okay. Sure. Sure, because I know you came in late.
For all of you who don't know me, I'm Mark Allison. I'm in charge of Gateway Service or Gateway Soccer Association. And I just wanted 3 minutes to discuss the proposed increase of fees. It's not that we don't appreciate or expect an increase. It's been 6 years since we saw the last increase. But the proposed fees are going from spread over the next 3 years with a total increase of 67% from what the current fee is, but the current fee of $40 an hour hadn't been implemented because it's now been increased to 49. That's the proposed fee. So currently we were paying $25 an hour. It's now going to go to 49, which is a 100% increase. The reasoning behind that was based on the expenses for the year, which was an average for 21 and 22 of 235,000. And the information given to me was that the reduction was proposed to go down to 50% of that to 120,000 for those expenses, and the fees were being increased based on those numbers. My question really is, one, the amount of expenses that are the 235,000, is that all going to the cost of the maintenance of the fields and everything that happens with the fields? Because I saw we were paying $9,000 a month for landscaping. Is that just to mow the fields and everything involved? We also have an irrigation fee in there. We have a concession stand fee in there. Of course, those things are all out of the fields, but I just want to clarify that if we're paying more to rent the fields, that money is going towards the field maintenance and not being a way to lower that expense fee for the year. The last thing I wanted to also point out, none of the leagues rent the fields or use the fields year round, except that the expenses are for a 12-month period. So there is going to be downtime. Gateway Soccer only rents the field for 5 months. So we're increasing our fees during that 5 months to rent those fields to cover the cost for the entire year. And so that's my concern there, is that inflates our rental fee, and that will impact the parents and it will impact the kids playing because they won't be able to afford that. And that's our greatest concern. We're not opposed to paying more. We're quite happy to do that. We understand it's time. We just want to make sure the fees we're being asked to pay are correct and are for the fields, so we don't have the fields in the condition they are currently. Thank you.
Okay, so do you want, I have some, do you want to address? So I had asked staff, and I think the board, I don't think Mark has this document, which is showing all the cost of the fall 2022 for B1 Cruise GFC and GSA. What they're currently paying, and plus the increase. So the increase for Mark would be $3,188.87 per season.
Just the fall. I'd have
Yeah,
to
per
find out.
Per season.
Per seat.
Yeah,
Yeah, not per year, per season.
Yeah.
Okay, and then, so we're looking, so it's a $3,188.87 increase to, and he is the biggest increase because he has the larger amount of usage on those fields, I guess. So that's the increase that he's talking about. I don't disagree with the maintenance. I've been there, I think,
can I touch on the maintenance?
I almost want to not talk, refrain from my own personal comments regarding the maintenance, but go ahead, you do that.
So that is one of the things operationally that we're looking at for next fiscal year, is contracting with an actual turf maintenance contractor instead of a landscape contractor. And so we did get pricing piggybacking the county's contract. There are different options. I think our fields require the high demand option, which is to the tune of $65,000. But if you look at the proposed budget for the landscaping contracted services for Mainscape Force, just the soccer field for next year, it's well over $100,000. So that in turn would be a reduction. But keeping in mind too, that we're looking to, through the CIP, purchase mowing equipment and taking the mowing in-house. And having that direct oversight and control, with leased to own equipment. So there are the steps that we're proposing for next fiscal year, so the fields don't turn up in the condition that they are right now, which they are deplorable. So, there's no doubt in my mind, and we've got pricing, from Mainscape per their contract for $70,000 that will be coming in front of the board at the next meeting to get the field back in gateway standard conditions. And that's
Wait, that's
40,000
is it in addition to
That's-
what was already,
that's $40,000 over the budgeted amount.
because it was
Because
30,
we
okay.
had $30,000 budgeted for sod replacement for the soccer fields. So, looking at the big picture and trying to operationally address some of these issues with the field maintenance, I believe with what we're proposing, we'll get a better product and a better maintenance program next year by utilizing a turf maintenance contractor instead of a landscape contractor.
What did you calculate on average?
So the increase for the user, so for a parent, it'll be a $5.13 increase because it'll be a $3,100, I'll call $3,200 increase per season. And they have 621 users, so I just divided that and it's $5.13 increase from the previous season.
And there shouldn't be any concession stand fees
Right.
any longer because they don't have a concession stand to use.
Well,
Yes,
We just
that-
feel something to be addressed. I mean, I think if we're gonna charge more, the facilities have to be, adequate. And these fields have always been, even in the condition they are, they're still some of the best fields in the county. And I've played on a lot of them.
And can I be clear? So Mark and Tim did reach out to me after the last time we had a fee schedule discussion. And their contracts, their agreements that were in place were put in place prior to the existing fee schedule. That's, I think, the $40 now. So they were paying the $25 per field rate, and they missed this year's fee schedule because they had already had an existing contract.
So
in
it will be
place.
more because they missed the last
Yes.
update cycle.
Because we honor,
We honored-
we honor the contract and did not give them an increase.
Yes.
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, my thing is, and I know Mark and Tim and the guys, because my kids, play out there, or at least have for 20+ years. I don't think these guys mind paying an increase as long as a couple things happen. One, the facilities are maintained at a standard. That staff is easy to work with and addresses their needs, and that there's transparency. And that hasn't always happened. And I know we have talked about it, and it's in the direction that we're trying to go in. But most of the time, we've got people managing Parks and Rec that have no experience with leagues. They don't always communicate directly with the leagues. Leagues are sometimes the last people to know. So I know that we're moving in a positive direction on that. But I think what we should do is, one, make sure we've got a good open line of communication with the leagues. If we're going to do increases, and we are going to have to make increases. I mean, we're very low, and these fields have hit the end of their life cycle.
Well, and the residents are subsidizing the cost of these fields
Right.
because it comes out of the assessments.
But we have to do a better job of driving revenue or saving costs. So I think as long as the product's good, we're a good partner to work with, and I think the leagues will be fine. But I think we need to have definitely more open lines of communication. And I'm hoping we're going to shut these fields down for the summer. And when we come back, and we're already seeing some improvements just through the rains, recently, but that we maintain them at a very high standard.
I don't think the rain is gonna fix everything that's out there.
Oh, no, no, water's not going to help, and sand is definitely not going to help.
It's, you
You'll-
got my list.
Well, you'll see, like I said, you'll see at the next board meeting.
But I do think we need to address the concession stand and some of that stuff. I know we got it temporary, or hopefully it's temporary, but
And we are working on, we got a task authorization from Tetra Tech for the design and permitting and everything of the Public Works Maintenance Building, which, again, that'll come in front of you in the next meeting or so, which could tie into the parking lot and parking issues, so.
All right. So we're done with public comments. We'll go ahead and local achievements and recognitions. Do you have anything?
Yeah, a voicemail from Isaac.
Yes, We did receive a voicemail from a resident. She had an issue that utility staff went out and she just sung their praises, very open and explained and was prompt. And mainly for Isaac, but for the whole utilities team as a whole. So I
Alright.
just want to pass those kudos along.
Thank you. Say thank you to Isaac on our behalf. Anything else? No? All right. So advisory committees and items to report. So we know we had Parks and Recs Committee did the reporting early. Anything from Pelican? No?
I don't believe so.
All right. I guess, well, there will be the 2 items for them to come back to us prior to the 15th.
I'll bring them back.
Okay.
So I'll be at the meeting.
All right, perfect. Approval of minutes. Does anybody have any edits?
I don't. I'll move to approve the May 4th, 2023 board meeting minutes.
So we have a motion. We have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Aye.
Oh, I voted on it, right? You give it a second to add,
Okay.
and then all in favor was
All right,
aye, right?
we need it for the record.
Okay. Hungry. Consent agenda items,
Nothing.
nothing. District engineer, nothing.
Is he on? Steven is on, but he is here to discuss item 11D. So we'll get.
They're giving their report the second meeting. So-
I did have one, I did have one question, I guess, for staff, just so I don't forget. So I did forward the punch list from, the lake restoration from 62 and 58 to the Stony Brook board and their camp. Did we receive anything else that was missed on that list that needs attention?
We did receive over the last, I think, week or so since that list went out, 2 irrigation issues, which have since been resolved,
Perfect, okay.
Have we had any other complaints from any other?
not to my knowledge.
That was a really good punch list with maps and stuff. We didn't get that before. That was a first. Like it. All right, admin agenda. So we'll go ahead. and
I'm
we'll
gonna
move-
request that we table item A to next week because that involves approving the budget, which we are not ready to do this week. It's a combination approval of the budget and setting the date to adopt it. So if we could move that to the 15th.
Okay, do you want a motion to move it, or you just want direction?
I think we're just,
Well, would you like another meeting in between the 2? Between now and the
if we
15th?
table this, are we having no more budget discussions?
Well,
you can still.
No, this is-
Solution to
It's still-
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
For the 15th,
Well,
high water mark.
It goes hand in hand with when you actually approve the budget, which I didn't know if we were gonna do today or not, so I was.
We can still have E, but we're just not we're gonna table it.
But my point is, do you want to table this to the 15th or do you want to set a meeting in between?
I would,
I'm not gonna be here.
if possible, I would like to have a budget workshop on that Tuesday before the
The Thursday?
Thursday. So it'd be the 13th.
You can't take action at a workshop, but.
I know.
Okay,
But I would hope that we would have in front of us then the final figures
okay.
that you're going to want us
I'm
to
fine with
adopt
that.
on the
Pre-
15th.
pre-final.
Approve.
Approve, whatever. Adopt, approve,
Approve.
whatever.
It's approved.
So-
And also all of the tax
So you'd like
effects,
for the 13th, which is the
Tuesday the
Tuesday
13th.
prior.
right.
That's fine. I won't be here, but
Trying to think.
Aye.
Yeah, is there any on the agenda? Is there?
Well, I figured 2 days ahead of time, you should probably have it down.
Well, keep in mind, we're still trying to get these numbers together and we have to put out an agenda a week in advance. So,
And notice it.
and
Yeah, the agenda won't happen. The agenda will, but these attachments will not.
they would,
Well, a simple agenda item could be continued discussion budget workshop.
Okay.
That could be the agenda, just similar to what you have
just,
today.
Documents for you.
Yeah,
We-
Can
but
we
if
just
we
not
could
adjourn
go
this
through the
meeting and just
document,
continue on Tuesday?
I'm sorry?
Can we just not adjourn this meeting in continuation of this meeting on Tuesday?
If you want to have a regular meeting, but if you're doing it to the 13th,
Oh,
when
no,
you
'cause
talk
we need a
about 12 days,
workshop,
when you
never
get
mind.
past 7 days, I
Yeah.
like to, I get
You're
concerned
saying
about
you
that.
can't have it done by the 13th?
no,
Oh, I can have it done by the 13th. I can't have it done by Tuesday.
we,
Like,
We are,
But you don't have to have the documents.
we,
13's fine.
we
Yeah.
can advertise just the agenda without the associated documents with it. That'll give us some time to work on it. And then as soon as they are available, we can distribute those to you via email. And then also update it, but that may be closer to the actual date of the workshop on the 13th.
Correct.
That's
So the
fine.
workshop will be 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock.
I'm open.
Whatever.
Fine, either one. Either one's fine with me.
Just triple checking that this room is available, because we don't have much room.
There is nothing booked.
So what time would you like to meet?
2 o'clock.
All right, so Tony, you'll draft the,
Yes, before I head out of town tomorrow morning,
Thank you.
yes.
oh,
Tuesday, 13th at 2 o'clock.
So basically, we're tabling item E to 2 PM on Tuesday the 16th.
Correct.
No.
Yes,
16?
no, this,
13th.
workshop, it has to go to the
13th.
15th.
Tuesday, the 13th.
well, no,
No.
that's,
13th, I mean.
okay.
Has to go to the 15th because the workshop, you cannot
It's a
take
public
action.
hearing on the 15th, yes, so it's
Oh,
different from the
okay.
workshop.
Okay.
It'll be continued, just like you had the budget workshop at 2 o'clock.
Continue
today.
the 15th, the
It'll be the
workshop's
same
on the
thing.
13th.
Yes.
Yes,
So then the meeting to actually approve the budget will be in,
15.
in
On the 15th.
15th.
Yes.
Okay.
And we have.
And then the public hearing, yeah, because that's it.
Mm.
And the actual public hearing
You'll
is
see.
August.
You'll set the date for that. Normally, historically, it's been the second board meeting in August, which would be the 17th.
Okay.
But that's part of the resolution that when you approve the budget, you also set the date for the hearing.
I just
Yeah,
didn't
because
make
what
sure
they
it wasn't- had moved up.
yeah, that gives enough time if there is any increase in any assessments or new assessments, because you have to go through the whole notice route.
Yes, which we have to do.
And at
Okay.
that time, we'll have the whole budget
Yes,
all put together,
yes.
every blank
Yes.
filled in. And the tax implementation.
Yes.
The
Okay.
whole shebang.
The whole shebang.
The bigger issue is we'll have the amount of
Yes.
what the tab is.
Yes.
Okay,
And again, if we can get that to you sooner, we will.
okay, so we're pulling A, and are we gonna go ahead?
We're gonna bump E up. Do you want to have any additional discussion on the budget? I already made a bunch of changes and took notes from the workshop, so if not, then we can just.
Out of just the changes that
I
you
already
talked
made this
about,
one.
you already made it, and then it says Stony Brook.
That's on June
Yeah.
15th.
No,
No.
it's-
Just
Okay.
rotation.
It would be nice if, like, it would be nice to get,
No, it's fine.
I got mine set.
it would be nice to get an updated
Second
revision
for revision.
Yeah, I'll get it.
that we can send
You can
to
call
Stony
it.
Brook
Yeah, it's.
for them to
it's-
take a look at it. Give plenty of time to review when you guys meet with their delegate, whoever, Margaret and whoever she brings in. That way they can have it ready for their board meeting and we can get comfortable and get the right information out so people can stop emailing.
As soon as all the numbers are filled in, I will do that. I will, as soon as all the numbers are plugged in and updated on the Stony Brook budget, I
Oh,
will
hey, can
absolutely
you,
share that.
can you also include two options? One with our with the board's recommendation,
Okay,
and then maybe the other one with the reserves board. Yeah. That way,
So we will make it a point to try to touch base with Margaret,
Prior to their HOA meeting.
yeah, and prior
So
to the Tuesday meeting.
and that would also include the revision of the,
no, their HOA meeting's the third Monday.
it's the
after-
20th,
So the 19th, she said,
it's
Joe
the
said,
third
Monday.
Monday.
after the fact.
Yeah, it's after the fact.
That would also include the revisions to the staffing plan. So they have the staffing plan, so they got everything they need.
So then maybe they can on their own pull their meeting prior to, give notice and have an additional meeting just for this. So if they want their residents to give it back, that's what they're gonna have to do.
But for our calculations, the total number for the impact on the residents is just simply divided by 778.
Yes.
There's no other shenanigans with it. It's 778, period.
Yes, Tom?
Madam Chair, just talking to Supervisor Pankow, she won't be back in town in August until after August 20th, right?
Correct.
So I guess when the board sets the budget adoption date on June 15th, might need to set it if she wants to participate. She'll be out of the country.
Right.
It would have to be August 20th. It could be the 24th, which is a Thursday. It's like an extra meeting. That gives you all enough time to get it to the
Just barely, yeah,
tax collector supervisor, tax collector,
Tight.
property appraiser.
yeah, it's tight.
I would say we try to do that, but at the same time, once we get out of that, there really shouldn't be.
No changes.
Right.
There really shouldn't be a change. So, I mean, if you had to miss it, that's the one I would miss. not the ones leading up.
Okay,
Just, you know, just,
no, I'll be here all
If-
this month.
yeah, just
And
if,
all of
if we,
July.
if things get tight or whatever, you know, we don't want to come down to the wire on that.
Where are we going to meet you at to have it done?
Where are we going out of the country?
Iceland,
Road trip.
Where?
Iceland?
So
Forget it.
I want to be,
August?
I want
Iceland? I don't care.
Iceland in August is.
I want to be clear, just like Carol met with Laura last week, that offer is extended to every single one of you.
Me too.
You too.
Even you, Bob.
Wait till the capital reserve comes out.
I just show up.
I do that too.
They love it when I just show up. I see doors closing. All right, so we want to go ahead and pull B as well,
Just leave.
or no?
No,
Let's,
Because I don't think Chelsea.
I
read
think we should, let's just talk on it real quick and then we can continue that item.
Which one, B?
B,
Block
The
cameras.
flock cameras. So let me just give you the history real quick. We had a request from the sheriff's office. It's my understanding we have 10 of these cameras that are already out in the field that were approved 2 years ago. The sheriff has made a request for additional locations. We got a price for those additional locations.
They
The-
did agree to honor they agreed to honor the same price that we paid for the initial ones, which is less than other people who put the cameras in, so it's $2,500 a camera. And each location will need 2, so you're looking at $15,000 for 6 cameras.
What
And there's-
locations and what's the
Where's
value?
it?
That I don't know what the locations are.
Location.
Yeah, it's got it on the.
Oh, is it on the?
Yeah. And everything but tree lighted plantation.
Yeah, there was a
gardens
map and I
acceptable.
was like, that
Yeah.
one, it's not.
So one's Commerce Lakes and Daniels, Corporate Lakes and Daniels, Westlink Drives and Daniels. The other entrances that we,
I mean, if we're covering our interests, what's the additional value of having is it just, I mean, common sense would say it's more penetration or more, but-
It's additional, it's, they've made the request. They must have a need for it if they've made the
And
request.
I think originally we didn't want to cover all at once. We say, let's just do the big ones first, the ones that we have the most amount of traffic. I do have a concern regarding the one on Commerce, because I don't think that's also our property by Dennis Preserve.
Okay.
So there's 2 that I understand it's an entrance.
it's just plugging the leaks.
Yeah, I understand. Well,
It is,
yeah,
okay.
so that's
So-
exactly what it is,
Yeah.
yeah, because I guess they're seeing an increase there.
And we're already in, so I mean, this is, and it's nothing but a security item for
Okay,
the benefit of our residents, not.
So
that much
this
money.
is a non-budgeted item for the
Correct.
year. We've already exceeded the budgeted amount for this fiscal year because of the $2,500 per camera. And the budgeted amount was, I think, 15,000 and it should have been 25. So we can do this now, or we can choose to add this as part of the budget for next fiscal year. Or, no,
we-
or not.
Can we
even-
wait?
Why don't we just do it now? It's 15,000. You have that in reserves.
we can, I wouldn't even do that. I would have pulled it out of the $150,000 Lee County Sheriff's Office agreement we have with them.
There you go. That's it.
We haven't even
Oh,
touched
Let's do that.
2 digits in there yet.
Yeah, we got money
Okay.
there.
Let's do that.
Do it there.
That's-
I'll make a motion.
That's what the staff
To do that.
recommendation was.
See,
Oh, well, good.
that's why we get elected over here.
Glad you-
read our minds.
Once in a while.
All right, you want.
Okay,
you-
Bob, you.
I'll
moved.
make a motion that, we
We,
add 11B, the additional flock cameras,
and the money to be taken out of the,
money be taken out of the budget item for Lee County Sheriff's Patrol.
But
and I'll
not,
second that.
but not the camera that's outside our.
No, not outside our boundaries, just the 3.
We could do, sorry, look at me just there. We can move it here, right by you.
Yeah, put one on its house.
You can just realign.
Yeah, you just, so instead of being over here, it would be right by the entrance on Commerce of Gateway, like Cinta,
Yeah,
it will be there. Cause that will be entering to Gateway.
It's
Where's
down
that at?
here.
Okay, here, yeah.
Yeah. There's the baseball field right here. Come in.
Okay, so
That's-
instead of
that's
here,
common.
it'll be here. It'll be close.
Oh, right there as you come in off that
Yeah.
road. Oh. Yeah.
We'll cover, we just don't put us on tree line, we just bring it closer.
Well, you didn't need it there because you can't get here without going past the Commerce Lakes part.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
covered
Okay,
there.
So we're gonna
We're
just
good.
keep the 3 locations.
Yeah.
That were
Yeah.
proposed.
Not the 4, the
Okay.
3.
All right.
All right, so we
So I
have a
moved it.
motion by Bob.
A second?
I second. it.
Carol.
Oh, Carol second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
And then we took care of item C, D. Release of the developer performance bond on Prado.
Bob, have you heard anything back?
I'm hoping
Yes.
that Stephen Agapi is online.
Yes.
Hey Bob, Stephen Agapi with Tetra Tech.
All right, give us the good news.
So over the last few days, we've received some emails from residents and from yourself, Bob, about a couple different items. Those items were valley gutters that seem to not be flowing to the valley gutter inlets properly at 3 locations. There may be more. I think you had sent a note to
Yeah.
Wyatt today.
And I've gotten some more even since I've been in the meeting.
Yeah, right. So there's those issues, and then the other issues were the downspout gutters from the roof gutter connection to the rear yard drainage. So I sent out an email about 2.5 hours ago, 3 hours ago, which was a synopsis of our field inspection yesterday. So there's a lot of homes that aren't connected to the rear yard drainage. The permit criteria manual says that if a home is going to have runoff from the roof or from the property directed towards a lake or a stormwater management system component, it needs to be connected via pipe. And it's pretty specific. It says it needs to be connected from the downspout gutter roof drain to like a 6-inch minimum double wall HDPE pipe to the rear yard drainage. So we looked for those items. We listed all of those addresses that are deficient. The bond does not include those assets because those would never be conveyed to Gateway. They're on private property. But nonetheless, they're required in the permit criteria manual and on the approved construction plans. So they should have been included and they have not been. So I'll just leave it at that for right now.
So I am opposed to moving forward with item D until these deficiencies have been corrected.
And Stephen, I guess briefly also, I'm pulling up your report. You also have some notations about certain valley gutters are not sloped correctly. Now, those were within scope bond.
Those
Yeah.
were,
So those, there are a number of valley gutters not sloped correctly in front of various properties. So that's another issue that needs to be rectified, corrected.
two separate issues directly related to construction.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Tony. And that second list is growing a little bit because now that we're getting the seasonal rain, everyone's remembering that they're building up mold very quickly in the bottom of their driveways and or the sidewalk and then the valley drain.
Yeah, 3 locations were noted and there might be more.
Yeah, there's more coming, but because the more it rains, the more we get.
And I think Stephen's analysis was very structured. The pipes were not connected to the surface water management system. Water in the 3 locations where it was noted that the valley gutters are not sloped need to be addressed to be in compliance with the permit criteria manual and plans.
So what we will do,
So is Stephen, are you spearheading this then? And you will make sure that this gets done and notify us when it's all done properly?
Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely work with staff to try to get this resolved as quickly as possible. I think we'll work together to reach out to Lennar, and I think the next step would be for us to have a meeting with Lennar and, go over these items, and that'll be the first step.
Yeah, he's given us the bullets and Chelsea will fire the gun.
Okay. Thank you.
I mean, it's been dragging on for years.
Years.
Okay, so then
so
we'll
just one last thing with this, I did notify, it was late notice, but I did notify them this morning that this, and every time that this has come up in front of the board, I've notified them it's been delayed, there's still ongoing issues. I did notify them this morning that it would behoove them to actually show up in person and speak their side of the story. But now that we've got the memo from Tetra Tech, we will pursue that with them and set up a joint meeting sooner than later, so this can get resolved.
Hey, Chelsea, before we send that, I think we need to add any of the other valley gutters that Bob mentioned at the
Yeah,
meeting.
I'll get everything as of today and I will solicit if there's any that are still open by Prado residents to get it here quickly. We'll have it by the end of the week.
Next
Yeah.
week, we'll send it out, Stephen.
Okay.
10-4. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for being on.
So
Yep.
we won't see this agenda item until things are done.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So fiscal year 2024 budget discussion.
We did that.
We, I was gonna say, I don't think there's anything I want to add,
Get up again.
right? District manager.
We have to adopt that resolution 2023-26.
No, we're gonna do.
No, we gotta
on
wait.
15.
15.
Oh, okay.
All right, district manager,
For the list. But the first one is the topics of consideration. I wanted to bring it to your attention. Is there anything in particular you would like for us to have at the next meeting, which will be held at Pelican Preserve?
One that a lot of the people are talking about all over is this admin building. We need to get out on the street where we're at on that building, what it is. That's all I hear about is what are you building that damn building for? You don't need it.
The Ed Tinkle Center? Oh, okay.
Is there,
I'd like to see
So that could be on the agenda.
a brief overview of the grass problem. You know, with that
the virus?
virus, diseased grass.
Have we got it in the community? Has any,
I
has
keep,
anybody
I
got it
keep
now?
hearing there's a couple locations in Gateway and at least one or two in Pelican.
Have you got it?
yes.
You guys do?
What?
What'd you do to get it?
I don't know, I got it from the.
Not yet in Pelican, okay. Yeah, I knew the two in Gateway. And unfortunately, Nancy, I thought
Hampton Park, I know had it, but I
I
thought.
thought he
certainly
told me
Lawrence-
that he had found one, but okay,
I think now with the rain starting up, it'll be more evident.
Yeah.
okay.
And-
But it's a good topic to throw at
Yeah.
the president.
And I would
And-
say when we talk about the building, we need to have the narrative for that. We haven't added any facilities in 30 years. And just give them the justification on why we need the building, why we're doing it, how we're funding it, and the impact of the resident, which would be minimal over the next 20 years. I
Okay.
mean, again, depending on cost, but
And could we just have a short description of the budget process too?
Budget.
Because it took me numerous times to understand exactly how it works.
We got the numbers
Laura,
done. for that
we
meeting.
should, I mean, we should have the numbers.
for the process itself, I think Laura last year had a PowerPoint presentation that was really good with the dates and time, and it was kind of self-explanatory, so we just put that out there.
We'll work on that.
And that should be something that we put out on Facebook page. I mean, to be quite honest, I've been extremely disappointed over the last couple weeks, seeing just replies out there on different areas, knowing that there's board members that understand our budgeting process, that we start with a high water mark and we work our way down, that what we put out first is not the end all be all. And I've seen residents who don't have any insight to this process have a lot of questions, which I completely understand. But the fact that I've seen board members not reply and support what the process is or communicate at all is really
You mean
upsetting.
HOA board?
HOA board
Okay.
members.
So, and this is an item that Flavia and I talked about today, actually, is putting out kind of a budget FAQ. So, and we could reuse it every single year because the process is the process is the process.
It's the same questions every year from residents, because they're not, if you don't attend the meetings, or if you've never done budgeting meetings, you have no idea that it's an iterative process. And we try to,
Well, the switch over in methodology last year was the
Yeah.
big topic. And now we've got a year behind us on that. So we don't have to explain what the methodology is. They're just going to see the final number.
but we need support. I'm not asking for the HOA boards to support all of our decisions, but they should be able to communicate and support the process and communicate that to residents.
Yeah,
And
but don't forget, that high water mark, that's what gets sent from a letter from Lee County to every single homeowner in Gateway Services. And that's what the people see.
Yeah. And every
They
year we
see
have.
the high water mark, and they don't understand that it could very possibly go down from there.
And more times than not, it does.
And
Yes.
I will agree with Doug on that, because I did receive maybe 2 dozens of emails that were forwarded, sent from the HOA, and particularly with Stony Brook. And the language that was put out there was very one-sided. So, and I said, to the point, I said, just call me. And we went over, and I always say probably 75% of the people, they were like, oh, okay, I get it. So,
And then, so of these 3 items, we'll brainstorm internally of a utilities item, so that way we hit, all aspects.
We'll probably need to update on the roundabout as well.
I have a sticky note full of reminders for myself. I touched on the Cheffy, Louis item earlier. We'll follow back and try to confirm and narrow down the scope and then what the expectation of the end result will be of his research.
And just make sure we loop Rod.
Yeah, I will call Rod. So some good news. Austin Manoli, he was recently promoted to our assistant utilities manager, and then we have Bill Shaw, who was promoted to the utilities manager role. Austin, a month or two ago, had applied through our insurance provider for a grant that they offer yearly. It was a $5,000 grant. Which you can get up to 50%. So we spent $10,000 on shoring equipment. So when the utility staff are digging, we have shoring equipment that can go in that can protect the hole from caving in. Austin was successful in applying for a $5,000 grant. We were awarded it. They came this morning with a big old check and they took a picture. So you'll see that.
That's awesome.
On our social media, but I just want to give him really high kudos for thinking outside the box, looking for other revenue generating activities, but also from the safety perspective, finding a piece of equipment that will help protect our staff. So that was good news. The Mother Nature is here. The rains have started. We met with the Lake Bay contractor this week. They had requested to delay the remaining 4 ponds until November. So we sat down with Tetra Tech, our public works department, myself, and Matt Tower. And so they have agreed to hold their pricing. They believe that if they start in November, that they expect to be able to finish the remaining 4 ponds, their smaller ponds, by the end of the calendar year. So we're working through the paperwork to continue that. We're going to have a follow-up meeting in 2 weeks of lessons learned. One of the conversations that we've had with Tetra Tech is splitting out this contract in next fiscal year and not having one vendor do all of the ponds, having potentially 2 vendors come in and have 2 separate contracts with 3 ponds each. That way we can pretty much guarantee that we get those ponds done within the dry season. So I just wanted to let you all know we are going to be posting and pushing out some information through email to our HOA boards and to the public that those 4 ponds that were supposed to be done last year are going to be delayed until November.
Before we leave that, weren't there price differences? How do we,
They're
I
choosing
thought we selected the low bidder.
Most were
most.
not the whole.
See, that's your problem. When you bid these things, no matter how you split them up, you go with typically the low bidder. So it could be that the same one firm gets all the bids. What we need to start looking at is very possibly is putting a time restraint on the contract. That you bite off, what you bite off is what you're gonna chew.
Yeah.
And there'll be a penalty if you don't get it done in the period of time.
Yeah.
Now, when you do that.
I don't have a problem with that. All I'm saying is
Typically, you have to have a reward though.
is if you got 3 of them and I got 3 of them and you're getting paid $20 to do it and I'm getting paid 30, I'll adjust my bid next time to make sure.
Yeah,
instead of
that's, yeah.
20. That's the danger of splitting it. Whereas the incentive we hold right now is you're getting volume because your price is the best. But what,
These are all things that we're going to be discussing with Tetra Tech on, because
it's just not set in stone, but it's
We'll see.
worthy of discussion.
yes.
As we
Well, but
keep
it's
on
also
this-
perceived effort too. I mean, some ponds are a little more difficult than others. You might bid a little different, so you might get rewarded for this one because you're
Well,
whatever.
as we keep going down the road and missing dates of getting these things done, it's stacking up on us. Where we've got 7 more ponds coming, now all of a sudden we've got 11 to do instead of
Well,
7.
but even though we have them to do, and I agree with you, but I think the priority ponds have been done. I don't know that there's an all-out rush.
There's some bad ones.
Okay, I'm sure there are, but I mean, just generally speaking, if we've gotten the bad actors behind us, I don't know why we necessarily need, I'm not opposed to accelerating it, but I get very worried when we talk splitting it.
We got a bunch of red ones still left to do.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. Okay.
So again,
It'll come back.
we're discussing that. The next item, Lee County is having a public hearing for proposed rate increase for their utility fees across the board. We would be impacted for the potable water it would be 8% for the next 5 years.
8 per year.
8% per year. They have a public hearing at the end of this at the end of this month. And we are going to see how that impacts us. We'll have an item coming in front of you at the June 15th meeting to see how you wish to handle that, if you want to do a pass through or if you'd like for us to eat the cost on that and what are the implications of that. Bob, the gas meter at Pelican Preserve for Tico will be installed tomorrow.
Very good.
Gateway Greens, we have a scheduled shutdown to next week. Potable water shutdown. Boil water notices will go out for portions of Gateway Greens. So staff and a contractor can come in and replace fire hydrants that are currently unrestrained. So we need to get those back in compliance. We looked at every possible way to do it without doing a shutdown, but there's just no way. We talked about the soccer complex being closed starting today. Staff did move 2 soccer goals over to the fun park in the event the community would like to use those during daylight hours. So we have a couple goals over there. If there's more need, we can move some additional goals over there or over at the Commons. So we're going to monitor that.
Just tell them they may have to, cutting that grass in order for it to be playable. They need to make sure they might have to lower it a little bit more to cut the grass a little tighter.
Right. The rack.
Oh, can you make sure the leagues have to know what the maintenance is being done? Probably a good idea for them to know what's being done at the fields during the summer.
I would
I
hope
mean-
Facilitron would do that for us. I mean.
What?
Notify them of the maintenance
the-
schedules.
The actual service, like not just,
The specific.
Yeah, I mean,
what,
what I would expect if we're shutting those fields down is one, all the field maintenance happens. But great opportunity for them to paint the goals, do a inventory check of the benches. And I'm sure, Mark and Tim and the other league guys will be more than happy to say, here's a punch list of things that, we've noticed that we should be doing. So when we come back at the end of every summer, if we shut down like this, which I'm hoping we don't do this every year, that first season back after the summer, everything should be in great
Shiny.
condition. Everything should be painted. It should look brand new. You know what I mean?
Agreed. We will draft that email to the leagues and notify them, hoping that you all approve at the
Oh,
next meeting.
On that note, I know the Parks and Recs Committee, Tim and I know Maria mentioned a bunch of items that are getting done already, so they have a list, so maybe even send that to Mark, so he doesn't have to create a list
Yeah.
and maybe cover what we already have.
We can,
Spend what they have and say this is what they're planning, what else are we missing? Cause I think Mark and I kind of talked about this, getting them more involved, cause they're the one out there.
okay,
Oh, one more thing on that. If we do have somebody out doing patrols, we need to have somebody monitoring those fields in the afternoon is where I'm seeing that. And there was probably 30 adults playing yesterday on
Nice.
field 1 and field 2.
the track yesterday, we have a pool party or 4th of July event. It's not on the 4th of July, but we do have one that we're planning. It'll be on July 1st at the pool. There will be food trucks and a bounce house and, I think the sheriff's office is coming with some, I think their ice cream truck or some other items that they have. South Trail, I think Tim was trying to get South Trail involved as well. So we are gonna have, that event from 11 to 2 at the pool. Randy is gonna be drafting, like a press release and an ad. Some of the PrAC members have volunteered if we printed out some of those flyers that they would hand them out to their community members so we can drum up business. I know some of the PrAC committee members talked about, music and what other ideas that they can bring for this community event. So
Fishing tournament. We had we used to do a kids fishing tournament. It'd be great to have the kids fish in the pond. And there's some local entertainers here in Gateway that we could probably get to play
Cause we delayed
or DJ or whatever.
we delayed a fishing tournament for 2 years
okay,
and it used to be at the pool.
was it during the 4th of July event or is it separate?
Yeah, separate, but we just have,
That'll be 11 to 2
11 to 2
on July 1st.
on July 1st. It's a Saturday. And that is all I have for my items.
Why don't you talk to the boat racing guys? If they,
He is a,
They
he's a member
asked-
of the PrAC committee.
okay, be nice to have them do some
Yeah.
demos, have the boat racing out there.
That's exactly what he asked.
Just make sure the kids don't hit them with fishing rods.
Yeah. Or throw rocks in.
Is the PrAC committee going to have some public presentation? I noticed today, I thought those numbers were a little on the salty side, $1.64 million, 2024. Did I read that right? Park and Rec recommendations. It's a big number.
In the,
That,
in the,
that hits the street like a lead balloon.
Well, we need to make a pass through that before. I
Yeah.
think we need to go through it before we start getting either more finite numbers, because there's quite a few items that I wouldn't support, just because the timing's not right.
That,
So
that,
maybe, I think the next meeting, we should.
I don't know
stop
where the
going
lady
through that
was
list.
there, but I didn't hear her saying a thing about that.
So, so that was one of my feedbacks, to Chelsea and I think Andrew as first meeting. And it was on our board pack at the last meeting. A lot of those numbers were given to staff by the PrAC committee, which to me, I mean, that.
Which needs some vetting.
Yes. Well,
yeah.
and we have existing funding sources for like there's some items in the bond that could cover some of those items, but ultimately it was their intent to give you all a
Mhm.
priority list and then you pick from
Decide
that what you want. And then for staff to work with PrAC to implement that. You just ask me something?
The 1.6 million, the total, so he
there's
just gave
something-
Nancy.
Yeah, that's what I read is the number for 2024. They're recommending is $1.6 million in expenditures.
I don't know that.
I don't remember seeing that number then.
It was the total at the bottom of the page for 2024. I have to find that page, but that's what I saw and I was a little shocked by her number. Are we going to get a copy of that report also?
It was in the last board packet, but here's a hard copy.
Oh, okay. I'll find it. Is at the bottom of the page.
Yeah, I think it's in this week's too.
That is all I have for district manager items.
This gentleman's deal with her.
Sure.
Dog park?
Okay, so Bob, I'll start with you because so your stand is that given the information that we received in writing, because that was requested by one of our supervisors, and it was detailed in there,
Yeah,
what
I'm
was
fine to reduce.
to do it, okay, because it really is a he said, she said, and I would like to think of our staff. I was there at the park and I did not know that you also saw him, but I saw him once and so I know there was just probably multiple times that he was there, but I guess if you talk to him, so that's the thing to me. Enforcing is, I would like to stay with the recommendation that we had at the last, which was a significant reduction of the time not to be used. Not saying I'm gonna be there looking at it to see if it's there, but I would like for him to respect that decision and just follow the consequences, because if this happened, to me, that's the thought and the idea when I talked to Chelsea, and is if this happened at a fun park, with somebody doing the same type of stuff on a gate there for a basketball hoop, what is the stand that we would have taken them? It should be equal to everybody. So that's my philosophy on thinking and keeping it. I think that we did give a big reduction on that particular item.
Actions have consequences.
And
No, I didn't change from the last time. I felt we went overboard.
even with the 60 days?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a tough one for me because I think I would have probably been more willing to reduce it again had the gentleman adhered to in the first place, like respected our judgment and authority. Cause I don't know if I don't know how many times he's been out there or not. I hate restricting someone, and we make mistakes. I'm really on the fence about this one. I could literally go either way. Really hate restricting someone to have access. But at the same time, to Bob's point, just can't let when someone breaks a rule or does something like that, we have to adhere to it. So I don't know. I have to, I'm on the fence about it.
Yeah.
So he has 1 more month to go, because we're June 1st, 30 days.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Next, it's future, board business.
Well, I had a couple of things before we get to that. I'm sorry, and maybe it should have come under the district manager items. But there's a few things that we're following up and I'm trying to get, I sent out an email today, clarification of who owns certain things, because in some of these Pelican items, we have some items that are being followed by KW, and some items that are being followed by the district. And yeah, I'm personally just having a difficult time seeing who's going to run the rabbit in the hole. For instance, I know the bike lane Chevron installation is superbly out for bids right now. Are you? I don't know.
That is the bike lane markings.
Yeah.
That is, Tetra Tech has the task authorization to reinstate those. Or is this
No, that's the one I'm talking.
the roadway
No,
one?
no.
Okay,
First is a bike.
we just got the task authorization from Tetra Tech this morning. I questioned some of the items that I think Stephen has since replied. I just haven't been in front of my computer to look at it. So that'll go in front of PPAC at the next meeting.
Okay. At least I know who's following. That's the main thing I'm trying to do. Somebody's got it. And then that just rolls right into the lane change adjustments and the studies. Is that also?
That is that the roundabout?
We have two roundabouts that were, the first one is in front of Casella, where we have two lanes going into one, but we don't have the markings to indicate to people that you're gonna have to merge to go
I know,
around the
I know
roundabout.
one of those FTE had applied the permitting, which I think that's the one that's down here that they're talking about putting a crosswalk in.
Yeah, that's Casella. That should be Casella. And it'll be identical when you enter Prado Pistoia. It's the same condition, two lanes going into a single roundabout. And I know the safety and security has recommended, I believe PPAC has approved it, getting the studies done. I just want to know who's going to do it.
Okay, this is news to me for the
Okay,
one. I know FTE is working on one of those. I'm not sure about the other one.
okay.
So I'll follow back up with Laura Monday.
Yeah, I just didn't want it to fall through the cracks. Talked about the Cypress Grove lighting ad nauseum. And as I understand it today, we're trying to put a 2-globe fixture at Pelican Reserve and Tree Line. And apparently we've done the work. The conduit is there, the power's there, but when we went to put the pole in, I think Castle had bought it and they purchased the wrong pole.
Castle didn't purchase it. They agreed with, and I got this information from Jennifer Lewis.
Okay, good.
They agreed on the light pole that was to be furnished. Castle did with the vendor and the contractor, which was before Castle left.
Right.
And so we weren't aware of the style fixture that was agreed upon. And so now that the pole showed up, we realized it was the wrong one. That's going in front of the safety and security, or it might be PPAC,
Safety and security.
one of their next meetings for resolution.
And they're gonna,
There may be additional costs
and
incurred.
yeah, and the proposal is, as I understand it right now, they're gonna take a dual lamp pole that's currently at
Similar.
Tree Line in Pelican and put that at Cypress, and then take the wrong pole and put that at Tree Line, because there's much more lighting at Tree Line right now.
Okay,
Okay, I'm just trying to see who's gonna follow it, and
that one, Jen was finishing,
so that's.
Jen
kicked
was
up.
finishing
All right.
that one.
The Benito intersection traffic calming ramp installations that was approved at the last PPAC meeting.
I'm not aware that they selected,
I think they just embraced the idea,
okay.
and that's
Cause
why.
I know that the vendor had supplied alternatives, and I'm not aware that they selected an actual alternative as to if it was the raised chicane, if it was,
Okay, if they did, will that be district or will that be KW?
it would be us with the safety and security subcommittee.
Great, okay. The generator, I'm glad to hear that the meter is gonna be installed. Do you happen to know if we need another permit to get the connection from the meter to the unit? I know we have to hire somebody to do it.
I think Bentley was doing that. I think it's already been
Okay.
coordinated as
So then
part of
that
the
ought to
original
be,
contract.
within a week, then we ought to have that done.
Ideally, yes.
Okay.
Right in time for hurricane season.
There's going to be additional markings at the Matarita entrance for Matarita 2. This goes along with the paving out there where they put the pavers in. And I believe that's also a KW
Yes.
function. I'll keep that down.
General rule of thumb, if they started it, I'd like for them to finish it, but if there are any new projects that are forthcoming, we start it, we solicit quotes, we see it through.
Okay. The Weir constructions look very, very good. They're just about done, Weir 2 and 3, except for going back and refurbing, landscaping and stuff like that. The Weir 38, there's still an awful lot of construction. The Coffer Dam's still there, but at least it's moving along. That one will not be done May 31st because it's not done,
Correct.
but we're well ahead of September 30th.
And just like every other project, once they are complete, staff and Tetra Tech will go out, put together a punch list, give it to the vendor sees through the punch list, Tetra Tech follows up that the punch list items were finalized and finished, and then final complete.
And I'd like to make a request that they include Xanter, the chairman of the ponds, so that he can also talk to the residents, because we've kind of made some commitments to them, that anything reasonable to satisfy their.
Who made commitments?
When we had the meeting out there with Keith, myself, and Xanter with the
Okay.
residents. And it was nothing more than we've always done.
Okay.
When we say, when this project is done, our aim is to make you happy as long
No,
as
to
you're being
restore it
reasonable.
to original
That's all.
conditions.
To put it back to a condition that everybody's happy. It might be something simple. Just paint the concrete
Okay.
wall green so it looks better. But I want to make sure that last part is done.
Okay.
The easement projects for Pelican Preserve, Mr. Attorney. I know we were staying on Avila. Have we selected the next ones yet?
No, I have not had an opportunity to do that yet. And I'm out of town until next Thursday, but
I will work on the next ones.
Okay, and
okay. then
Conservation
I'll-
areas fixed.
I'll be,
I think the best,
I'll
touch base on the next one.
yeah, and what I've been working with, going back and forth with Bill Cronin was, to the extent that we have the graphics, the GIS work are doing really well. They have aerial photographs and they've superimposed a proposed 15-foot landscape buffer easement around a via. But it's over a color aerial photograph, and that does not take well when you record it. And so I was asking if they can do a version where you have the white hatching.
With a good definition, yeah.
With a good definition, and sort of the buildings kind of disappear and fade into the background with large notation, so we say typical 15-foot LBE. And that's what we're working on. Yeah, same way we don't have to worry about the sketch and legal. Yeah, we tried using the condominium plat documents, but it's an older legal description and sketch and survey and difficult for his CAD work.
So
Okay.
the Avila, that one for Avila was sent to the CAM and the group that we had met with here. So we're waiting for them to review, sign it and get back to us. And then once it's signed from their side, we'll take it in front of the board for your final review and approval.
Yeah,
Okay.
and part of the document will be signed, but again, we're just finalizing the exhibit form, make it in recordable form.
Yes.
And the association attorney has not looked at it yet, so he
Okay.
needs to.
And I'm just
review it.
trying to prod it along because that's only the first of 7.
Right.
And the other one is the conservation area is 6. The pathways around it. That is becoming hotter and hotter. to
Is it
me.
really? Okay.
We need to know who owns that ground.
Well, it's a conservation easement. We don't own the land.
I know, but we,
There's a bill of sale for the past, and I'll back that up.
Okay.
Back.
boardwalk access for wheelchairs and Americans with Disability. I think you've opined on that, but I haven't seen any change in signage. And I don't know if we're waiting for PPAC to make a recommendation or because right now it says pedestrians only. Makes no mention about that it's,
Wheelchair accessible.
yeah, wheels or ADA accessible.
I think at the last PPAC meeting, Doug Xanter had said that he already ordered the signs.
Okay,
They just haven't come in yet.
all right, great. I forgot that. And then,
He used the verbiage that was agreed to at a previous PPAC meeting.
okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
And by the way, the form of the grant of easement for Avia, we'll use that for the other condominium associations and or homeowners associations. Got to put language in there about warranties and representations as to power, right, and authority to grant the easement. That's an important
Yeah,
consideration.
and Avila is our pilot, so to speak.
That's a template.
Yeah, the
Yes.
template, because we've got a lot. I hope we can do the next couple of simultaneously, but we'll
And
start.
the
with-
work that Pastoral has done, that's really good work.
Actually, I skipped Chelsea's review. before we go to future board business, district attorney, in your review. Nobody said anything.
Yeah, I have a question.
I know you all kind of rolled into the agenda.
I
that-
know.
that I-
it's like-
Oh, well,
I'm ready for it.
No,
I'm ready
I
for it.
circled that item to address that in 16 and then, yeah, so the board understands the parameters and the considerations and has the review. And I think everything is in the agenda packet as to what to consider and your recommendation. And it's the all the board members have submitted their reviews with their names on it, which is important under the Sunshine Law and Public Records Law. So Madam Chair, it's, up to the board as to how they want to proceed.
Well, I believe as we left it last time, Bob, you had asked Flavia to look into some issues
Correct.
and to get to the bottom of certain things, and you asked her to report back to us.
Yep.
So I sent an email, so we had all the questions that was mainly regarding Stony Brook. One was regarding the direction that was giving, the biggest one, direction that was giving to their vendor by Chelsea specifically to stop mowing the items. So I follow up with Chelsea on an email in writing, and that's actually, you asked and Stony Brook asked that question. So I asked specifically just that question to Chelsea. Did you or did you not meet with them? When did you do it? Who was in attendance and so forth? So I got an email from Chelsea in writing saying that no, she did not meet with anybody from Lincare, neither she has the authority to do or change a contract or do anything else. Her response, I sent it out to all of their Stony Brook board members. I have not heard back from them. Email, call, nothing. So the answer from Chelsea, not only I owe you, all of us, the answer I owe them, and I gave them the answer before I gave to you guys. So I have personally have not heard any more feedback regarding that. And that's what we stand.
Yeah,
That-
I had a conversation with one or two people, bending my ear about it. I said, talk to Flavia if you have an issue. She's now doing it for the board. The absence of hearing that, it's a dead issue for me.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily want to spend a lot of time on this. I mean, kind of going through and I've looked at the reviews. My recommendation would be I can do this in a motion, but I'll just do it for discussion first. My recommendation would be to award her 3 of the 4% for merit and 4 out of the 6 for bonus, giving her a total increase of 7%, which would be 9,450 on top of her base of 135.
To bring her to a 144,
144, 450,
450.
which is based on what I've seen, right in line with probably the median of roles in that space today. It's good for first year, I think.
My suggestion is that from the research that I've been doing lately, it seems that cost of living right now is hovering right around 5%. A year ago, it was about 9%. Right now, it's about 5%. We have up to 4%, so I would give her 4% on the living adjustment. And then just looking through the evaluations, it appears that the majority of the check marks were between 3 and 5, with 4 kind of being the average. For me, I don't think you start a merit or a bonus until you're past 3. In other words, you have to be doing more than an average job to do a merit. But if you take 3, 4, and 5 for the check marks, 4 is right about in the middle. So I would suggest either a 2 or 3% bonus
On top of the,
on top of the 4%.
we're in line about 7.
Yeah.
Ed?
I agree with what Carol just said. The only thing is that the way I read the evaluation, 3 is just doing your job.
Right.
4 is where you start into the merit. So, but as you pointed out, the 4 to 5, the 4 looks like probably the consistent number of all of the check marks. So I'd go along with what you said.
I actually went to the trouble of reporting what everybody had down
Thank you, I just did that.
in the 14 items and they came out, just number 1 was 4, number 2 was 4, number 3 was 3, number 4 was 4, 5 was 4, 6 is 3, 7 is 4. So other than item 9, which was probably the lowest of all, was at 3. Everything else was pretty much 4. So,
Four.
yeah, I agree with what.
So
what
in line-
Charles said.
So I'll make a motion that we award Chelsea 3% for merit increase and a 4% for merit, bringing her to a 7. I'm sorry, for
For
bonus,
bonus.
percent for bonus, bringing her to a 7%. Which would equate to, I think it's, if I'm doing the math correctly, it's
7%.
7% total. And I think we can just work the numbers out.
Okay,
I'll second that.
so we have a motion, a second, all in favor?
The only
And that'll be retroactive from.
Yeah.
Cause that's.
And the only thing I would say is, I know that you've looked over the comments and I think you've met some of us.
Actually met with all of us.
Met with
Yeah,
everyone.
met with everyone. And there's definitely, I think, opportunities, as a leader to cascade that down. And one of the things I will state is, this first year, you haven't operated with a full staff. There's been some
Was that
vacancies.
staff or staff?
Staff, full staff.
Watch
A
it.
full staff. So,
He's always getting us in trouble.
communication seems to be a theme, like just throughout the district,
But it's also.
and then
staff.
just continuing to learn, not only, adapting to our environment, but there's a lot of historical information that a lot of the people that attend these meetings, they know about the district. You won't know that until, you pick it up as you go, but I think that district acumen will help you down the road. And first and foremost, we have to be pushing in a direction where we're a district of choice. And that's from our residents' perspectives, from our HOAs, from the board and our vendors that we work with. So that's what my desire is for us. So good job for first year.
Can you get clarification?
Yes.
Yep.
What was that, Tony?
It's effective as of May 16th.
Okay.
The last meeting.
Okay.
And then I was wondering if I could request, and maybe the board would join in me, an email from you that would basically outline your goals for the next year going forward then.
So one of the things that, thank you all.
In other words,
I really-
like, I want to accomplish blah, blah, blah by such a date, or however you want to do it. But I'd like to have those goals basically for next year.
Okay, so thank you all. I really appreciate that. It's been a challenging year, but also a rewarding year. And I truly look forward to the future and what we're going to continue to build and grow here and better at this district. Your goals are my goals. And so one of the things, I believe it was you, Carol, that had mentioned in the review was a strategic action plan, a big picture. And I believe the district had one, I think in 2020.
Yeah.
And so I'd like to bring that back for next fiscal year, get a facilitator in here to work with the board and myself. But I will jot down some goals. How we operated last year and how I intend on operating this year is getting, your vision for the next year. I'll set my goals and then trickle down. Laura will set hers, Andrew, Bill, they'll set theirs, and it'll be one big goal-oriented organization. So I will get those to you. I do owe you, as part of my job description, a succession plan. I passed around a document to all the staff for them to provide their input. So I will get that as part of those goals to you all here in the next week.
And I do I think Carol brought this up the last time. I think as we get through budget and we go either prior to or as we launch the next fiscal year, I think we should do a board advance. And it should be you and staff, giving our vision plan, our 3 to 5 year, give us an opportunity to, do what we've done in the past with some of these board advances. I think we should do that every year at the beginning of every fiscal year. If no one has an issue with it, I think it's something we should start planning. And we could do it at the club like we've done before. That's a good place to do it.
Yeah.
Would you like that before the end of the fiscal? So that way
Yeah.
we have them set for the next fiscal?
Yes.
Okay, I will work on, I don't know who you,
September.
I don't know who you used before. I'll reach out if somebody has that information, or I can look it up, but I have somebody that I've used before.
As a facilitator?
Yes.
Yeah, what, I think this should be your gig
Right.
that you put on for us, and it gives us an opportunity to have feedback. So, I mean, that's just my way I perceive it.
I'd like you to put it together. I don't necessarily want you to control it.
Okay.
Because I,
Adventure, but
'cause I'd
hosted
like-
by staff.
I'd like the board to have input
Yeah, no,
as to where we're going also.
you
So-
set the picture and I implement.
Right.
So hopefully if the board and the executive director all marching in the same direction, we should have a nice, smooth year.
So I do have just one feedback regarding the actual review form itself. Who do you want me to give it to? Like just the process? I don't
Laura.
think it was clear. I think I have some recommendations on the delivering or maybe the conversation, maybe making it required to meet with you. So when we come to the meeting, kind of doesn't happen what happened before. And so I will give some feedback to Laura regarding that, and I'll just open to the board if they have anything they would like to see different or change, just send that to Laura.
I have some suggestions for next
As well?
year as well, so
Okay.
this was treated as if there is a 1-to-1 ratio and,
And-
Yes, you.
Oh,
and I have a 5-to-1 ratio.
okay, so that's my only additional feedback to that.
That's
All
the
right.
Excel spreadsheet with the math on it, that's all.
Okay, thank you. I just did it here.
I know.
But
Mine
thank you.
looks better.
I know you did. All right. So now we'll go ahead with the future board business. Yes, Tony.
We resolved there a few matters today. Staff to have the contract. Ideas for Dakota. Yeah.
That's one of my questions. The notice to proceed will be issued tomorrow. Basin Court.
Contract was, and I signed off on the contract today, so I assume Extreme will sign it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And
So it was waiting for signatures. As soon as they sign it, we've got all the paperwork lined up. And then we can have a, pre-con meeting with them.
Okay, Extreme.
Yes.
Yeah, it's unfortunate we lost that couple of weeks, but.
Yeah, rainy season amongst.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else, Tony?
don't you- we have the public
Yeah, we have to have the public hearing.
Okay, and then just, are you still waiting on the Stony Brook? In case they do choose to take over the 004? You started talking about that on the beginning, but we really didn't get into
Yeah,
it.
Yes, or you want to get that going.
but what I did, I sent the email out.
Yes,
Just saying, Joe. Their attorney here is the statute that the county attorney's on. Get together with the. And the attorney. Get a document that, with their document. Here, give to the county attorney's. This. Paying the written consent. Want to go to the exercise of giving all the written. County attorney's office. Not the right form. And also it lays out what is required, the letter to go. I want to have that meeting.
okay,
Cecil called me on that one to where we were at, and I told him, well, we're putting together a letter to make sure a form of an agreement that the owners over there will sign, but we want you and your attorneys to sign off on it beforehand, because we're not doing it twice. That's issue one. Issue two said, well, then I want to make sure you understand what they're telling me now is the vote is not per house. It's per owner. So if you have a husband and wife on the LIPA deal, it's 2 votes. You got to get 80% of it.
It says property owners.
Yes.
If it's a trust.
And he said they will check. So if you've got typically 2 owners to every house, that's 1,500 plus that we got to get 80% of.
Yeah, hopefully, and I've run into this. Spouses on the opposite end.
Somehow we have to go through to play it safe, to vet this thing ourselves before we send it to the county. We need to look at LIPA for every one of those 777 houses and know what we're dealing with.
I've done this before. For property owners. Created a spreadsheet. On the LIPA, dated it with. Say as of a certain date here, this property appraiser is pretty. Used to be like 3, 4 months behind. Now they're about only about.
We found one, we found one today, 3 months behind.
Yeah, but that's my process. You know, I was happy before.
I just don't want it to be a research project. I want to get this vote out.
I can help you with that too. I've done it before.
Yeah, that's right. And so it's just a matter of, once you get it, you just verify a checklist and then, and hopefully everybody's aware what they're going to sell the property. That they, I require of that. Say, that's a document to be signed. That's the hungry.
The big thing is, big thing is when Flavia meets with them, I'd like to be able to start talking to these people about, hey, there's a ballot or form of a ballot that's going to be coming out that we need 80% of your signatures.
Right, and again, the idea, if I want to get, have us, Chelsea, Flavia, get with HOA board, attorney, work out their guys' perspective. And maybe have a couple of, and then present those to the county attorney.
I just don't think there is knowledge in that community of the issues relative to that guardhouse. I don't think they have any idea. That is on the table. It's that simple. It's on the table. You can't have a guard there.
But again, so that's what we're trying to set up to get.
Okay. And simultaneously, I mean, I offer, like, if we want to hold a meeting, if they want to hold a meeting and have myself or all of us as an, a town hall meeting to explain that, I offer that at that meeting and I send it an email. And I think a lot of, I guess, when Chelsea, would you be able to send maybe by the end of the day tomorrow, the frequently asked questions from that meeting to, as Doug mentioned, to the board to see if they want to give any additional feedback? Because that, Ed, the way we have it, it's gonna, it's clear. It's, you do not have, like, the gatehouse, it's there, but you cannot deny entrance to anyone. You can ask for an ID, but if they don't give it to you, you still have to let them in. If you ask for a name, they don't give it to you, you still have to let them in. They don't have to give you a reason. I mean, I was very clear at that meeting and there was a lot of open mouths at that meeting. And I think it's important that we send out that document to their board and have it put it out.
Well,
That's gonna
we're-
cover a lot.
we're close. I'll make an effort to try to get it wrapped up tomorrow. There were just some unanswered things. I was looking at it before today's meeting, but we'll shoot for tomorrow by close of business.
Yeah, and I wish Joe and Warren would have stayed for a little while longer, or some of the other Stony Brook people, because, I was extremely disappointed with some of the stuff that I've been reading on some of the social pages, and a lot of misinformation.
It's misinformation.
And
Yeah.
what, like I said earlier, what really upsets me living in Stony Brook is there's board members who are, some of the stuff is being posted on their pages and they're commenting, and no one's coming on top. When someone complains about the gatehouse or people being let in through the guards, no board members are coming in saying, hey, we don't have the authority to restrict access, or, this is whatever, X, Y, and Z. That's what's frustrating to me, is it's all being deflected back to the board. Like, we're the ones that are creating all these problems. And I know I'm gonna upset some people from Stony Brook, and, but, I was just really disappointed that there wasn't more action taken from the board. Actually, there was a lot of no action taken from the board, and letting a lot of these things just continue to
Rather than
manifest.
clarify.
And instead of playing, it would have taken one statement and it would have stopped, or at least say, we will communicate something out, or come to the board meeting. It's ridiculous.
I'd like to see him just put out a deal, vote for the transfer, period.
And we're gonna have
That's
to
the
push,
only way
we're gonna
you're
have to
going to
push
get
it. We're gonna have to push it, because I will tell you that, even the board, I don't know if they're all their positions, but I think even the board is split. But it's not a board decision. That's what Flavia tried to tell them at the
And I
the
did.
HOA. It's a resident decision. It's
The
not a board
res-
decision.
the residents asked, like, there was one resident that looked at the board and said, I want to know, what is your vote, your vote, your vote, your vote? And I said, look, don't ask them, because unless you're 7 short, then you ask them. I said, because it doesn't matter if they're 100% say, yes, we're doing it, and the board of supervisors says 100% yes, the county is gonna say no, because we don't have the authority. You do. I said, it's in your hands. You want to control the gatehouse? Take the roads. You want to control the speed limit? Take the roads. You want to control everything out there? Take the roads. You want to.
You want to decide how you want to pay for things?
You want to, you don't want to have a reserve account? You don't have to have one. Take the roads. So I told them, I said, it's on your hands. Like, you guys make the decision, not this board, not us. So, I asked them, pass along the information, and I told them I would get that in writing so they can, because they're not gonna know a lot of the the follow-up question that's gonna happen. So I think sending them in writing and, Tony looking over, us looking over, make sure we cover everything, I think it's
We'll
really
try to get
important.
to you guys tomorrow, so you have hopefully the weekend and early next week to review it, and then maybe we can disseminate it out to the community by the end of next week.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and I guess I would think
Today?
I said yesterday.
24 hours?
The demands that, all right.
Who's
What-
going out of town for
Let
6
me,
days?
let me go follow back up with a couple emails
Okay.
myself.
Okay.
We got
Okay, and
we still have one public hearing.
yes, so then if you do have so one of those, the question that's kind of gray, because I got it verbally from you, but I also told them, don't believe anything verbally. If it's not in writing, then it did not happen. That's exactly what I told them.
You're not gonna get a refund.
Okay,
Which are, one could be that money. Those are, extent that there's excess monies at the time that assets are HOA's road, to the fund. Now, the funds that would be otherwise used for maintenance of the road can be utilized, offset, use their own general funds. Actually, one be a transition because we operate these facilities. And we will pay you using accounts in your. And once that's gone, you use your own event.
okay.
Can we touch on a couple of different things real quick that we're working on, you and I together?
Is it regarding to this?
To his items in general.
Okay, so just to follow up on this, I think there's a huge discrepancy on the amount of money that they mentioned at the meeting that they have under that reserve. It's nowhere near, so,
We
what is
can
it?
put that as part of the.
I think that's
FAQ.
a frequently asked question, because
I think we need to add some budget items for the FAQ sheet.
Okay,
So that's what I want to work on tomorrow. One of the things in the same discussion with this, the Stony Brook HOA has requested that Mainscape cease maintenance effective June 15th. Tony has provided a landscape maintenance agreement that would essentially give them the authority to, the O&M agreement already gives them the authority for oversight of GSCDD assets within Stony Brook. What they're asking is to not only have the oversight, but to pay for and maintain GSCDD assets.
Can we also include the gatehouse security contract in that? That's a separate agreement.
It would have to be a separate maintenance agreement.
Overall, I think we're trying to do one bite at a time.
Yeah.
And
We're up on a deadline with
this
this.
allows to modify the Mainscape agreement.
Yes.
Randy sent me the contract document a few days ago. I amended back today, so that could be on the agenda. 15 for Mainscape scope would be
Reduced.
I do want to include, I mean, I don't know what kind of response they have, but I think we should be throwing that security contract at them as an option as well.
So.
Understood, but I think that could be a separate.
Okay, I'd love to do it at once, but.
and I did get an email from Joe stating that, I think I believe it went to all of you guys, I don't know if you had a chance to read it, that said that they're planning to take over the 004 account, September 2024. That, while I understand that they need a residence to do it, that came from Joe. I think he went to all of us, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's their plan. So that may not be necessary if it's the route they're really gonna.
So the landscape maintenance agreement, working through some of the edits Tony provided, trying to clean, no offense, Tony, trying to clean it up, some nits and things like that. I want to get that draft over to the Stony Brook HOA so they can review it and if they have any edits or comments. But it was their intent to cancel it June 15th. And that's 14 days away. And so they gave us a month notice, so we're working diligently to make that happen at their request. That would have to come in front of the board at June 15th in tandem with the Mainscape amendment. So that's one thing. The roundabout you guys approved for the Lee County School District, we're working on getting that to the school district and just get that finally pushed through. And then, the FGUA interconnect, we're close to getting the modeling. But we're working with the county over here to do the amendments to all of our interlocals, and then we're working with FGUA over here to make those amendments. So just, there's a lot of legal documents going around.
Yeah, they have all of that.
Yes.
And not just a wholesale agreement. PCO, I'll call it the acquisition and purchase agreement. That has a definition of service. They have all of that.
I want to be clear because Ed, I think you mentioned it at one of the last meetings. You were concerned about the sewer rate for this rate increase that they're proposing. That does not impact us. I got that in writing from the county because our rate is set forth in the interlocal agreement. So I was told that the 8% that's across the board were impacted by potable, but not necessarily the sewer. So, all right.
So the differential between the water and sewer is gonna shrink. Because the water's going up.
Yeah.
In your sewer, like 3.
No, about double.
Anything else for district or future board business? Do you want to jump to that?
Yes.
Get that, what do you call it, advance.
Okay.
Timing for that. It's gotta be September. I think we can get anything done before then. Too many other issues.
I'll work on getting a facilitator in and getting the price for her to come in. The FPL streetlight conversion, I think that'll be pushed to July. This is part of this potable rate increase is we want to get you guys some options. We've got, of course, the budget item that you pushed from this meeting, but is there any other items that you would like us to be working on that is not already on this list?
Well, I was gonna bring some supervisor comments, but I think it's something we could put on the list. So school is ending. So we will have 3 months to work with the school district and the Department of Transportation to try to come up with a better process for drop off and pickup, probably more so pickup. High school and the other schools. The high school the parking on the side of the road is really getting out of control. And it's same thing for Gateway Elementary. I don't know what kind of option, the solution is available,
Put a curb.
but
Get the
there
county
is
to curb.
room. I mean, I was looking at that today, where people pull on the side of the road. Could be could be another, something that DOT or something has to do.
Aren't they
But
breaking sprinkler heads?
well, it's not only that, it's just, it's not safe because people are,
It's
they're
just
pulling
very
in and out and they're back. I mean, there's just,
Okay.
to me, it's not necessarily damage and it is destroying the grass and sprinklers and that kind of stuff, but there's just there's no law enforcement out there anyway. I
We
mean,
don't have any authority to put up a no parking sign.
So
It's on our road.
well, so that's let me bring this in. So the conversation I had, and I was pushing this with Lee County, with Jillian, was I requested for those signs. I sent the picture. I'm like, this is safety issues. People are getting dropped off in the middle of the road, like not in elementary, but at the high school. So it was kind of, I got some pushback, but then to the point that the Gateway, I think the Lee County School Board Safety Director say, you know what, I give up. We're in agreement, put the signs. So I'm waiting on the county now, because now we as a district requested the signs. The school board say, look, we can't really enforce it. Just give them the signs and then know that Lee County Sheriff's Office has to be the one to deal with it, which we're fine. We'll deal with that then. But I guess maybe if you want to follow up with Jillian and say, look, on the last email saying the school is also in agreement that those signs are needed. I mean, granted.
signs aren't gonna do anything.
But in
I mean, it's an
enforcement,
deterrent, that's fine. But what I want to see is, I want to go back to DOT. There was a traffic study that was done. And there was a plan on how they were going to manage traffic in the morning and the afternoon. Now,
They being who? They being DOT or the schools?
well,
Be
both,
school.
I think they both were,
That could
both
be
were
done
engaged.
by the school, approved by the county.
I think they're both, because what we heard was it would be minimal impact to traffic flow because of the start and end times, and which is probably true to some extent. The problem we have is not necessarily that it's backing
It's
up traffic
creeping
that
over.
much, but it's starting to. But there had to have been a plan for the number of cars in and out and how they would flow around that roundabout and get in and out of the school. I'm sure the plan was not to have 50 cars plus parked on the side of the road.
Right.
And, you know, so I know that wasn't the plan. So there
Why
had to have been a
can't they
study.
queue on their own property?
That's the problem. So during all
I
this.
think that's
prison-
what we need
that's
to
the-
force is
so-
that issue.
So they had 3 lanes going in, so the drop off was actually 3 lanes. So the school principal decided day one, they're doing 1 lane. So now you cannot queue 3 lanes inside of the school. You have to do 1 lane. So that was a fight that, like, personally,
That's,
I have,
I don't think they're operating as designed.
they are
We
not.
just tell them, hey, we don't care how you do it inside.
Yeah.
You do it inside.
Yeah, we don't care.
You have to
But
build
but you
additional
cannot park on
pavement.
the road.
So
You can't park on the road.
So now they said, so now they're allowing 2 car lanes to come in and to do the drop off, but they're locking the main gate until 1 o'clock. So people were able to come in and start queuing in, how they do it, in any other school. Now they can't because the gate does not open until 1, but people start queuing in at 11:30. 11:30 in the morning, yes. 11:30 in the morning, you have at least 10 cars.
And what
Go
time do
tomorrow.
they get out to?
1:30.
Oh, yeah,
So the gates open at 1.
2 hours early?
And
that's ridiculous.
you just go there by 12, and that's the kind of
School's out.
enforcement.
School's
But
almost
the
out.
point is,
Part of the lesson,
now,
yeah.
we put it on our radar now. So we've got 3 months to approach it. Go down the different channels. We need to talk to DOT, we need to talk to the school board, maybe you should probably
Yes,
even have a
Cody.
conversation with Cecil.
We, go back and revisit the settlement agreement from school. Because
No.
the paragraph in there is,
Not chartered, Gateway Elementary,
Gateway Elementary.
elementary and high school, yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, that one I think is a problem. I don't see it as much because I don't go that way.
They're all.
Because we have
all
a separate
different.
agreement.
Yeah.
Regards to how to get traffic conditions.
Yeah.
And deputies and all. There's the charter.
Our school's horrible.
It's worse,
Yeah,
you
it's
know.
Horrible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because during the school's morning drop-off period, the afternoon, they have the Gateway Charter and Gateway Charter High School. Pay for the utilization of 2 sheriff deputies to direct traffic during the drop-off period. First week of each school year. Utilize a minimum of 3 school staff. Criteria as to the charter school,
But only for the first week?
as to the sheriff's deputy.
And they have
And
to have
then-
staff.
And then there's a number of items. in there.
Okay.
Well, I'll give it to Joe.
My point is now that school's over, it's a great time for us to get ahead of planning for next year.
Start putting the pressure
But
on.
we need to put it on the right, we need to get on the right radars.
We will add it to this agenda management.
Awesome.
Anything else? Okay. Next.
Public hearing.
Just Mark waited as long as he could.
I guess he's really hungry. All right,
Sheriff should take, or someone.
can
I will move to open the public hearing.
I'll second.
so we have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so the, go
In
ahead.
the agenda package is the first public. Hearing. After the resolution, after the reschedule.
Yeah, I can. So, board had previous discussions and input with regards to the fee schedule, which is mainly general fund items. And so the items in red are changes to the existing fee schedule. And all of the comments that were made at your last meeting are reflected. If this gets approved, everything in red will turn to black. And the proposed fee column will turn into current fee.
I'll make a motion that we accept the schedule as
Second.
written
And adopt the resolution.
and adopt it.
I have one additional comment that was made since this was put out, and it was from Cheryl. I cannot pronounce
Molitano,
yeah,
Molitano.
what Flavia said. And she is a very active member of the dog park. And she suggested that if you have more than 1 dog, that you pay an additional fee. So like if I have 5 dogs in my house. So if I had a second dog as part of my membership pass, it would be an additional, let's just say $20. If I had a 3rd dog, it'd be 15, a 4th dog, it'd be 10, a 5th dog, it'd be whatever. So that was just a suggestion that came in since our last meeting. Tracking, it would be a little difficult, but it was.
I think they'll track it.
That's honor system. That's a nightmare.
So with that being said, we look at the league fees. What I am most concerned about is like our large users, Flag and Gateway Soccer. In order to offset costs, could they potentially scale back and maybe rent one less field in order to offset costs? I mean, it's not a lot. I mean, when we're looking at the numbers, like Gateway Soccer, which is has the biggest volume, it's only an increase of about $5 per kid, which is not significant, I don't think. But do we want to offer any type of discount for any volume rates? Just throwing it out there, I could go either way. Or are we comfortable with what we got? Because some of the difference too is some of these folks
You
are
go
using
around.
lights pretty significantly.
I think if we give, you mean like if they're using a law, we give them a reduced amount?
Yeah,
I think
potentially,
we'll have more wear and tear if they're using more, so it's kind of in opposite what,
But it's also driving revenue. I mean, you don't want to,
not yet. Cause we're, not right now, we won't be, cause we're only getting 50% of cover for the next 3 years, that's our goal. So eventually, yes,
Doug, I'll defer to your,
yeah,
you
I
know,
don't,
knowledge on
Yeah.
this and
I would-
support you whatever you want.
I would suggest, we haven't had a full season of Facilitron. Let's let this ride for at least a season and we can come back to that conversation at the end of the fall
the,
season.
the pushback we're gonna get, and what I would say is I'm surprised we haven't seen more emails, is people get hung up in the percentage increase. It's gonna be what, 49, upwards of 49%, which is significant when you look at any type of percentage increase. But the impact to the individual, and this is where we need to make sure we're very clear on how we respond, is the impact to the individual is $5. You know,
Well, it
that's,
depends on the league.
it depends on the league, but it's 5 for.
But you're right.
5 for soccer is probably 6, maybe 7 for flag. Now, for some of the others, it might be, but those are competitive leagues. So
Yeah. But frame it
you're
in
charging a hell of
dollars,
a lot more.
frame it in dollars.
But you frame it in dollars and,
We
you
got
know,
a lot of money
uh,
we're gonna spend on this. It's being
Yeah.
subsidized. I don't want it
But-
subsidized anymore.
but our talk track has to be very clear. Like the percentage may look significant. However, in order for us to maintain the fields at the level that is required, we have to make some changes. We have not increased the fields at any percentage over the last X amount. Like, we've got to have a talk track that we can all communicate. And I know I'm gonna get hit pretty hard, but,
Yeah, I'll send all my points to you.
yeah,
We need points.
you know, but we just need some talking points. And so people truly understand, we're not doing this at all to hinder the leagues. We're not doing all to hinder or to reduce the amount of participation.
We have kind of a boilerplate response that we've used so far, so perhaps we can send that to you all to utilize if you do get bombarded. And again, feel free to send them our way. I have no problem meeting with anybody individually if they want to talk it out. I know I've had multiple meetings with Tim and Mark in the past where we talked through some issues. So, and I do know that the leagues were holding off on reserving the fields for the fall season until they saw this. So, whatever comes of this, we will notify Facilitron immediately, get them to update it, and then give the existing leagues the opportunity to go in and request for fall. And again, we'll give the existing leagues that we've had a partnership with for years, give them, you know, if it's a 2-3 week window to go in first and reserve, and then from that point on, it's going to be first come, first serve.
Yeah. And I would just say too, I think we need to continue to make sure we're fostering those relationships with the leagues.
Yeah.
A lot of these folks have been doing this for a long time. They provide a great service to the community. Let's try to be easy to do business with, especially when we're increasing prices, and get the right people managing these leagues.
Well, and we've made it clear to them with Facilitron, if they have any issues, Facilitron has said, hey, we'll sit down, you know, we can do a call with them and help them through it, making their requests. From a staff perspective, we've offered the same thing, but this is new to all of us for at least the Facilitron standpoint, and we'll make it as easy as we can.
Yeah.
Facilitron is only available for input by the leagues or by the users, the paying, and then staff, right?
So
Any user.
anybody could go in and make
Yeah.
an account and make a request.
Which is great for us, because if
So
you go out there and someone's on the field it's not supposed to be, hey, you have to
But-
rent this field. Well, I didn't know I'm supposed to do that. Yeah, you go to this.
Schedule, but I'm talking, I thought we would also be able to utilize Facilitron as, so there's some issues on the field. Mark would just log into Facilitron
He can
and
send a
he
message.
can send a message,
Yeah.
but that's only him and staff that can add it to that. Like parents, because sometimes parents may just want, instead of notifying Mark, they can notify us directly. I just
Of a
wanna,
field issue?
I just wanna
Or
open that
facility
because
issue?
when I was out there in the most of the emails and I was talking to the parents, the biggest thing is like, look, we'll pay, but look what we're paying for. And I mean, and it is embarrassing, like it's bad. So I think I really want to open it up to, and I think Mark will do a good job because I didn't get a chance to talk to Tim besides an email to just tell them, look, I'll do it, but you can do it too.
Yeah.
Just empower them to tell us like what's wrong.
Well,
Yeah.
plus, it gives them the ability to put in tickets and to cite issues, which gives them a leg to stand on,
that's what I'm-
because we don't always get reporting on that.
One of the things that we're working on, going live with the Cartograph system is it's called See, Click, Fix. And so, hopefully by the end of the fiscal year, we'll be able to go live with that. And then that would be the mechanism to do any reporting. The general public could do any reporting. And that's, you can take a picture, you can, it'll geotag where you're at. But absolutely, if residents, any participants have, email customer care, email us and let us know.
Make a motion in a second.
It also includes adopting resolution.
To approving it and the resolution.
So we have a motion,
There's been a motion and a second, I guess.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You. We will, so that takes effect.
I move to adjourn the public hearing.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I just have one question before we go. We heard a lot about dog park today. Pelican has two dog parks, Big Dog and Little Dog. And they're both about the same size, but I'm not a dog person. We've never had a dog. But is it important to keep big dogs away from little dogs?
Yes.
Yeah.
If you own the little dog, it is.
Well, I mean, maybe when they talk about moving the dog park, are they talking about moving two,
Yes.
having two
Yeah.
separate areas?
So the,
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
the
okay.
area here is, I just looked, it's 0.7 acres, and the area over there is 1.7 acres.
1.7 acres.
Yeah,
That's
it's
a bigger
much
thing.
bigger.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's much bigger.
Who broke the basketball goal over there? I thought we set that park up for basically kids. Every time I come out of church on Sunday, it's big kids
Yeah.
over there, and I guarantee you, they don't live in Gateway.
Well, I tell you
Yeah,
what, I love the
Came out
stuff.
Sunday and the rim was broken right off. Somebody got over there, jumped and hung like a monkey.
Well, if, I love the idea of moving
I don't
the
like
park
that
and all that stuff but if
Poor analogy.
if we got a hard time for wanting to
What
put
they
a
do.
district office building there on the residents of Pinecrest, I'd be curious to see how,
If we what?
when we got pushback from Pinecrest on putting an office building, buying the Girl Scout
When we
building,
buy the Girl Scout.
I'd be curious to see what their pushback is or what their feedback is. We want to put a dog park behind there.
Well,
I wouldn't even want to second guess. Wouldn't want to even second guess.
oh, I did get an email, I think I shared with you guys, from a resident, and she wanted it to, us to have an engineer study to see the barking and the loud and decibels from the dog. I'm just relaying the message.
I got a better thought. Clean up the mess on Gateway Boulevard.
Did you guys go over supervisor?
Well, wait, it's the supervisor meeting, I think I feel like we kind of.
No,
Any comments?
No.
Everything.
Motion we adjourn?
Well, let me just, this for the record. So Stony Brook, just so they know, it's pending on their end. So the landscaping with land care issue, it was resolved. The email was sent out on 5/20 to their board. So that's done. The punch list from 62 and 58, that was done, emailed to their board on 5/24. It's done out of my list. The email recap from the questions for the meeting pending, hopefully by the end of the day tomorrow, I'll send that out to them. The Stony Brook beautification project, we kind of touched about it now. If you can just I'll send the board an email saying that it's delayed pending, the permit for the MOT. I'll do that today. The FPL contract with Stony Brook credit for non-working lights. Joe has mentioned this multiple times at the meeting, that because the lights are not working, that he can get a credit for FPL. I know. I went back and I look at their two contracts. There's nowhere in there in the contract that has such a clause. I asked for the last updated contract, which was signed in December 2022, does not have such a clause. So I told him about it, and he says he has one at his house that has such a clause. I said, it's on you. You bring that contract to us because we don't have it. The only ones we have are, that clause does not exist. So it's on them. If they want to refund, they have to produce us this contract that we don't have visibility of it. And then the refund to 004, which we just got the information from Tony, which is gonna be added to the frequently asked questions. So that's everything Stony Brook. My last 3 weeks, it was nothing but Stony Brook. So that is all my supervisor comments.
What's your percentage?
Yeah.
110, because that's all she's been given.
To us, sir.
All right, so we have a motion to adjourn and second. All in
Yeah.
favor? Aye.